his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry.
And I believe in this show. Welcome in, folks, to the High Council here on WCBS. It's Tuesday, and it's time to entertain all of you fine people. I'm your host, Jeff Hicks. You know me from such things as the Ollie's Toy videos and, well, this channel, World Class Bullshitters. But I'm not alone tonight. First off, I'm joined by a wonderful slew of people. Namely, first, the co-hosts. Say hello to Andy Andrew.
What's going on, Jeff? What is going on, High Council Chat? Great to be back with you guys here on a Tuesday night. Thank you for being here, tuning in every single Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Central. You guys are the greatest in the world, and we try to give you the greatest show on a Tuesday night in the world. That's what we do here, because we are world class, and we, just like Joe Hendry, are believers.
Yeah, and we're champions, just like Joe Hendry, too. Folks, I was very happy to see that happen. But we will save the wrestling talk for this Thursday because it's the Royal Rumble, and I'm excited because it's my favorite day of the wrestling year. Our other co-host for the evening hails from the Great White North. He might be a script sickle tonight, but he's here anyway. So hello to Script Doctor.
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. Yes, I've got a nice roaring electric fire by my feet, keeping me chill today as a snowstorm comes in from the south to blanket us with many feet of snow. But that's January turning into February for you up here in my neck of the woods of Canada.
Well, if you lived in Atlanta, 1 inch of snow would shut your city down and
I would
mass
be
panic and
king.
hysteria.
Dude, you lived in
King in Atlanta if it snowed.
you lived in California for a few years, Jeff, and I grew up there, and I lived there for over 20. Like, a few drops of rain hit the windshield. All of a sudden, everybody forgets how to drive.
Oh, yeah, they start flying.
They don't know what the hell they're doing over there with anything but sunny weather. Like, overcast. They're even, like, looking over the steering wheel like, is it going to happen?
Well, have you ever seen a car spontaneously, appear to spontaneously catch on fire because it had a piece of its muffler scraping across the pavement on the highway, and because it hasn't rained in California for months, if there's ever an oil leak on there, it would spark and explode?
I've never seen that.
I've seen
Can't
that.
say that I have. Twice? You've seen it twice?
Yep.
I've seen
I
it.
haven't even heard of that being a thing.
No, it happens.
Well, you, my friend Aaron, are out west. Folks, say hello to Mr. Aaron Sparrow.
Hey, everybody. Good to see you. Glad to be here. I was supposed to be here last week, and I got sick and completely blanked on it until the show was already going.
It's no problem, man. You're here now, and that's all we care about. So, guys, it's been another interesting week. And, folks, before we start the show, I just want to make a quick announcement. Coming up in March 6th through the 9th, I will be at the Lexington Comic and Toy Show. Now, no, I'm not going to be there running around with my phone trying to take pictures. No, I have a booth. I work these conventions. So you can find me alongside other comic creators like, who do we got down here? Some big names like John Romita Jr., Christopher Priest, Howard Chaykin, Jim Shooter, Ron Lamb, Ron Mars, and many more will be there. And you can find me. I will have a lot of new stuff, a lot of exciting stuff. And it's a toy show as well as a comic show, so you know we're going to be talking about toys. So come find the booth, come find the table. As soon as I get my booth assignment, I will give you guys the exact location that you can come find me. But if you're in Lexington, if you're going to make the trip down to meet Sting or a ton of other wrestlers, or Bernie Lomax himself is going to be there from Weekend at Bernie's, and William Shatner, you guys should come down and hang out. I'll be there. We can talk. Hell, we might even go look at an Ollie's on Sunday. Who knows? Anything is possible. But that is the Lexington Comic and Toy Show, March 6th through the 9th. And there are so many guests, I can't even sit and read them off because it would take far too long. But as you can see, if you like anime, they got great voice actors. If you like movies, they got well-known names. And if you're a pro wrestling fan like me, well, one of the all-time greats, Trish Stratus.
Oh, they got Cam Clark. He's one of my favorites.
Wait. Andrew McCarthy is also there? Is Jonathan Silverman there? Did they put together the entire cast of Weekend at Bernie's?
Let me look, because they should have.
Oh, man.
I love that movie.
I would go there just to meet Cam Clark. He voices one of my all-time favorite characters.
Oh, there you go.
That's hilarious.
Crazy.
They got the whole crew. So, folks, if you've never seen Weekend at Bernie's, watch it. Pretty good.
I mean, we just had 4 years of it, so. I don't know,
Yeah. I mean, that would have been the third entry to make it a trilogy.
Right?
That's what they should do with Gremlins.
They got Lita.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Quite the lineup.
Oh, you got Maurice LaMarche. I love that guy. He's such a blast to hang out with.
Steve
he's cool, dude.
Downes.
Rob Paulson too. Rob Paulson's really
Same
cool.
with Robert
Steve
Paulson.
Downes is a fantastic voice actor, but he, like many other people in the entertainment industry, should probably stay off social media.
He's the voice of Master Chief, and I
Oh,
can't read his tweets.
I was. Never mind. I was thinking of somebody entirely different. Yeah, no, he's actually cool. Trish. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Trish is super cool.
I'm gonna put this in my GPS.
Yes. Well, Lexington, Kentucky is not very hard to find, Andrew. So, folks,
Right. It's one of like 3 places with paved roads there, right?
no, Kentucky's way better than people give it credit for. Arkansas, Alabama, that's when you're starting to get into dirt roads and cousins.
I just get to give it crap because of Mary. That's all.
Well, that's fine. Maybe she'll show up too. But folks, that's then. This is now. Time to talk, well, toys or a lack thereof. But first, we have our word of the day from Shrubbles 08. And Shrubbles 08, the guys and I have talked about Attack of the Killer Burrito all week. So thank you. But the word of the day is tamales. Dude, where are my tamales? Star Wars, raised tamale. Ooh. A fistful of tamales and for a few tamales more.
Honey, I Shrunk the Tamales.
Yeah, the Tamale Brothers.
Tamales not included?
What we do with the tamales.
Live free or die tamales.
That's a good one.
Apocalypse tamale.
That's not bad. Tamale Park.
The man from Tamale.
The man with the golden tamale.
The Road to Tamale.
Just the one? I think it actually works better if it's the road to tamales, because then you're like, oh, I'm interested in this quest. Because
For as
hopefully
much
there's
as I love
tamales at the end.
Mexican food, I never order tamales. Just
No,
Harold and
they're-
Kumar go to tamales.
I have neighbors that bring them to me at Christmas time, which is nice. Homemade tamales, and I made them myself once and never again.
oh, okay, that's it, huh?
You're just like,
it's a
my neighbors will bring them.
Yeah, because it is and I'm so appreciative when they do, because it is a shit ton of work to make tamales. But yeah, no, normally they're just there's not enough meat in them. There's, you get them and there's more of the corn around it than there is meat. So
I've been to many a Mexican place, and you're like, oh, a tamale, I'll get one, and you're just like, the tacos were better.
yeah,
Yeah, I judge a Mexican place on their tacos, not their tamales. I don't care about the tamales as much, unless
I'm
they're
always looking-
homemade tamales. Homemade
I'm looking
tamales
for a-
can be pretty legit.
I'm looking for a good agua fresca when I go to these places, because pineapple agua fresca is like crack to me. When I lived in, that's the thing I really missed the most from California, walking up to Paquito Moss, because you're walking a half a mile, you can justify drinking the damn thing, and then you walk home. So
Yeah.
I did live in a good walking neighborhood. I don't know if it's still standing after the wildfires, but it was nice when I was there. Aaron, I'm glad you're safe though.
yeah. No, I'm way out. I was way outside the fire zone. I'm outside the mudslide zone.
I don't get it though.
Thank
You
God
go
for
from a
that.
fire to a mudslide. What? I was gonna say what's next, an earthquake, but that could happen.
I was
No,
gonna say,
that
like,
could happen.
don't speak
Yeah.
that into
man.
existence. Callie can't handle it right now.
No,
I mean-
when everything was on fire, I was like, man, if there was an earthquake, like a big earthquake right now,
Oh,
this
dude.
state would be done.
Dude,
Yeah,
people would be
luckily there's
thinking
only
it
a
was the
mild one.
second freaking coming at that point, is what people would be thinking it was.
But how cool would it be to like? Not that wouldn't be cool at all. But how insane would it be? It's like a wildfire, a volcano, and then a flood comes in. I think it'd be like a sign
Why
from above,
not?
like we should evacuate this land.
Right?
know,
I think we need to leave.
I think we've upset God, guys. I think he's,
Well, yeah, he wants a good movie, and there's not
bored.
enough output.
yeah.
He was like, listen, y'all, I promise not to destroy the earth with water again. I said nothing about any of this.
yeah, fire, earthquake, a volcano rising out of the tar pits. You all saw the Tommy Lee Jones movie. I'm doing it. It's
I
happening.
like that
I
movie.
have.
Unironically, it's so cheesy. I used to watch it a bunch as a
Guy
kid.
jumps into lava to throw a guy away from lava.
That's the shittiest part of that movie.
I know.
Because he clearly throws a dummy.
But
What about
he-
Dante's
he
Peak,
jumps
which is
2
basically,
feet, and when he
this.
still throws him, he goes like another 6 feet outside of the actual thing. So he could have just thrown him from the subway. He didn't have to jump into it.
Well, then you got Dante's Peak, where the grandma gets in the acid water
Oh yeah.
to
The
push the
90s.
boat.
We
the
had
rest
great
of the way.
movies.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone says the 80s had the best films, but the 90s has a counterpart for every great 80s movie. There is not a 90s counterpart. Like, there's Back to the Future, and then you could maybe argue Jurassic Park. But there's no, like, Empire Strikes Back. But there's
not a
Matrix.
concentration window of great movies in the 90s compared to between 1982 and 1986. Because those 4 years are incredible. If you try to find that up in the 90s, I don't think it holds water by that point. But that's like that is where it was the no holds barred era of the decade. It's revolution in special effects, more ambitious storytellers, actual director and auteurs kind of coming into the fold who feel like they have to constantly prove themselves with every single production they get involved with. We don't have those types of people getting the attention they rightfully deserve these days. The ones that definitely want to prove themselves, that are putting themselves out there, they're getting basically sidelined with smaller festivals or limited distribution or straight to streaming or something. They're not getting lauded like they used to.
We got your buddies Kurtzman and Abrams.
Who?
Yeah, you might want to watch what you're saying around these parts here, Andrew. You might get got.
Hey man, like they just built the largest Star Trek set in Toronto for Starfleet Academy. And
what the hell's Starfleet Academy?
It is the second show that's still going to be active under Secret Hideout for at least the next 3 years minimum. God. And it pains me because as someone who literally watched Star Trek since the age of 2, to find out that only about an hour and a half south of me is an awesome Star Trek set that's about Starfleet Academy, but it's unfortunately part of Alex Kurtzman Discovery Universe, taking place in the 32nd century, taking place in an era of Star Trek that is devoid of everything that makes Star Trek Star Trek. It pains me because I managed to go and see the early sets of Discovery over at Pinewood in Toronto, and that that was very disappointing in a number of ways. And then when they built their new studios in Mississauga, that's a town that pretends to be a city outside of Toronto. It was like, oh great, CBS Studios is close to home. I interned with CBS and Paramount back in the day, and when I went over there for a visit because I was invited, you see all this stuff, like they're so excited with Strange New Worlds and Star Trek, and it's like a knife in my heart because these people do not know what they have, and they're squandering it. It's like a girl that you've loved has been stolen by an evil tyrant, and every effort you go to try and rescue her just makes the tyrant stronger for somehow. and you just can't do it, and all you see in her is being tortured and suffering. Oh God,
bad gig.
Yeah.
Agatha was a 1-season show all along. Hallelujah.
Yes. So according to the Wrap, Agatha all along will not be getting a season 2. This lady, Jack Schaefer, isn't interested in making a second season, and she also turned down WandaVision. So thank God that this lady has some kind of sense, because I don't think anybody gives a shit about it.
She was the showrunner.
Nobody watched this show.
She was the showrunner to WandaVision, and she got this afterwards and didn't want to come back to do a second season of WandaVision, which was not going to happen anyways.
And I don't think she was offered a second season of Agatha all along.
No. Here's the funny part. I don't believe that she's burned any bridges over at Disney with regards to the performance of either of those shows. I think that they will be happy to call on her again if they have another thing they want her to work on.
I'm sure they will. WandaVision was fairly well received, and the 12 people that watched Agatha seemed to like it. So, as far as
on Twitter, so thank you.
Yeah, as far as like people who actually show up to watch these things enjoying it, apparently people enjoy her stuff. But the problem is that nobody shows up to watch these things anymore. Disney Plus is an absolute failure.
WandaVision actually. Sorry, go ahead.
They were touting that hey, well, guys, The Acolyte was actually super successful. It was the second most watched show on Disney Plus in 2024, and I'm like, that's not a measure of success for The Acolyte. That is revealing how poor the viewership of Disney Plus is.
Yeah, well, that's them being word doctors, right? That's them very carefully choosing the words that they use for their marketing and for their discussions with the trades and things like that. That way it looks like they're performing much better than they actually are, because in truth, they're performing very poorly. WandaVision kind of made me sad because it started out really fun. And maybe that's because I grew up with my parents watching, Andy Griffith and Dick Van Dyke and I Love Lucy and all those. And so like when they were doing those first few episodes that were like, each episode was in a different type of decade or era and was leaning into that kind of television from back then, I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then as the story went on, I was just like, this is kind of bad. Right?
Well, when the guy
and then
that
it
runs
ended
Sword,
horribly.
When the guy that runs Sword all of a sudden goes from like, we want to keep this contained to let's shoot children like on a dime because you needed him to be a bad guy. Like all of a sudden, it's like nothing is set up, nothing is earned, and then you get to the big CGI fest at the end, and you spend the whole thing going like, okay, so Doctor Strange has got to at least show up at the end, right? And it's like, no. And then you find out the reasoning is Kevin Feige's like, well, just, it seemed like it would be, we didn't want to have just a white male come in and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my God.
There's a horrible reason. Like, you didn't even have to say that. Just be like, this was Wanda's show. We wanted to put all the focus on her and leave it at that. Like, it still wouldn't have made it a good finale because it wasn't. Aside from, I do like how Scarlet Witch looks like in her all her glory and all that. They did a good job with that. But like, it's when they start saying stupid crap like that. It was like, oh, we didn't want to have this white male pop in. It's like, dude, you didn't even have to say that. Not saying that would have changed nothing.
You could have said, well, we couldn't have Doctor Strange in there because his next movie is going to explain why he's not available, because that's how you set up your damned characters and build anticipation to
give people anticipation and incentive to go find out what the hell Stephen Strange has been up to, right? Like, it's that easy. Why is it that complicated to these people? It's the same thing with when you have instances, we've said this before on the show, where you'll have whether it's a director or a writer or an actor, they'll say something stupid about, oh, well, we're doing this thing and I really love doing this thing about their movie or their TV series, and it's something like that comes off as extremely woke and ridiculous. And then if you watch the thing, you're like, well, that wasn't in there. Like, what the hell were they even talking about? Were they just searching for points? Like, what are you doing? You're literally shooting yourself in the foot over nothing. Like,
that's what Dungeons and Dragons did. Yeah, exactly.
It's exactly what Dungeons and Dragons did, because the movie was fantastic. I had a ton of fun with it. But I remember listening to or reading the interview that the team had on it. I was like, okay, guys, like, we really doing this? And then you watch it and you're like, well, that's not in there at all. Like, not even remotely. In fact, it's completely the converse of that. And it's like, guys, just stop. Because one, okay, so you're going to piss off the people who don't want that kind of crap in their movies and television, right? So then they're not going to go see it. But then if you're, positing that this is going to be a thing, or you're claiming this is going to be a thing in your entertainment, in your show or your movie or whatever, and the people that do want that in there, all 5 of them who have a job that can afford anything beyond their cat food, and they actually go to the theater to watch it, and they see that it's not in there, then you're pissing those people off. Granted, that's only like 5.5 people and their cats. Right. So that's not as important. But still, like, you're not making anybody happy by doing that, and you're not making yourself money.
No, this show, WandaVision, I, like you, sat through it, but I hated it by the end. The little Easter eggs and the crumbs that they would drop each week. In the beginning, it was cool, and then it got stupid, and then it just, oh, he's not really Quicksilver, he's Ralph. What the
that was so stupid. Yeah. That was so
boner
stupid.
Joke.
Right? Yeah, it's like, really, we're doing this?
They're doing it because they had a really great setup, but they didn't know how to stick the landing, just like with Lost. That show has a good, for all intents and purposes, has a good pilot, but if you're actually paying attention, you realize there's only one outcome that this show could have. And guess what? After several seasons, they finally just admit, yeah, you're right. That was the only outcome we could have. We tried to steer you off the path, but we're not creative enough to do that.
Well, what's funny is, I was having lunch with Paul Dini one time, and the subject of Lost came up because, he worked on the first couple seasons, and he said that he goes, oh, until the later seasons when the showrunners just decided that it didn't really matter what no mystery box really meant anything. It didn't matter. He goes, we had answers for everything that we had set up in those first 2 seasons. So if you're wondering, why was there a polar bear there? We had answers for that. He goes, everything was like baked in. And then, the later showrunners came in and just decided that wasn't important.
Is it wrong that I've never watched Lost?
No.
No, I mean, because it doesn't end
Entertainment.
well. So, you know, if you
No.
if you had watched it when it was a phenomenon and it was coming out every week and you were having the water cooler discussions, then it meant something.
I
To go
could
back
see
and
through
watch
the
it now.
gimmick. Like back then, I'm like, this is just a big gimmick. Like I get it, the mystery, but I'm like, I don't care. It wasn't a gimmick that could hook me. And so, like in college, when it was still going strong, I guess, like they would have lost parties and people would invite me over to watch it, and I went over a couple times, and I remember it was like an episode about a hatch, and it was a rainy day on the island or something. I was like, this show's dumb, and I never went back to one of those lost parties. Like, I think that era of television is definitely dead because of streaming, but I wouldn't mind if you're able to like get the hype back for something on that scale. I feel like the internet kind of ruins the Easter egg, the talking, because it's like people's jobs are now to like overanalyze stuff, and it becomes tiresome to even talk about the hypothetical or the fun parts of these shows. And
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I think our culture has changed so much that even if a show like Lost that would have everything baked in and written out creatively couldn't win, because people nowadays, if their own theories don't come true, I think they just dislike stuff.
Well, there's
it
that,
doesn't
but
matter
also
what it
like
is.
shows that are built on a mystery are really difficult to pull off these days. One, because it takes a genuinely creative and skilled writer to pull off a good, worthwhile mystery. But the other part being that in the current like state of entertainment and culture and access to information, like back when Lost was like really popping off, and like you guys were saying, you had the water cooler discussions, you had people, you know, in class or during lunch or recess talking about it when I was in high school and things like that. Like that was a thing, but the internet wasn't nearly as prevalent back then. Social media wasn't so much of a thing, besides like you had MySpace like a little bit there, right? But it still
And
wasn't.
Facebook, yeah.
Yeah, like
you had message boards. That was the thing.
yeah, you had to go to
board is where you go.
dedicated message boards, and so you found out spoilers because you were looking for them rather than you just walked across them because somebody decided to post something that spoiled the whole thing. And you know that can, I have to believe that there is some trepidation about putting together a mystery when it comes to that type of medium. Maybe not in the book, but when it comes to television, especially in the streaming format, where they a lot of times they'll dump like half a season or just a whole season right off rip, right? And people will binge watch the thing and then they spoil the whole thing, and people are just disinterested at that point. I certainly would be.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand the people that have to go online and try and spoil it for everybody else.
That's just being a jerk, right?
Yeah,
like, why
for example, when my friend Maria and I watched the first season of Westworld, I figured out.
I watched that.
I figured that out almost immediately. And it's just because as an editor, you know, Andrew, and you can probably speak to this too, is you know how the sausage is made, so you see the setup and you see, you know, and you're like, okay,
yeah, you can see the little points where you're like, I bet that's going over here. But that's going over there.
and so, you know, so like she and I would share, but I never jumped online and was like, the man in black is actually the young guy. It's two different timelines and blah blah. Like I never got on there. And by the way, sorry if I just spoiled Westworld for everybody. But
don't.
Season,
That was like what,
like
8 years ago now? Like,
yeah, it's almost a decade ago.
10 years ago.
You
Remember,
were some time.
J.J. Abrams and Jonathan Nolan and Pam Joy. Sorry, they are very lucky that they know people in Hollywood, because 30 years ago they would not be allowed to write the stuff they did. And Westworld was interesting manipulation of the original movie, which I still think the original is far superior than even the pilot of Westworld, because
as tends to be the case.
Because again, if you like these writers who worked on Westworld, they basically took like a weekend course of psychology and then said, oh yeah, the bicameral mind, that's exactly what it comes to what the AI is. And if you actually like studied up on psychology and philosophy, you'd realize that was your step one, and it's not your end goal. And you're not in divisive. Your characters and people are not divided in twos. They're actually divided in threes, cubed over and over and over again, because there's public, there's private, there's family, there's different variations of personal, different ways that we present each other. It's a complex rubric of things. And yet this show is like, no, we're going to say the answer is that it's a pair of dualities. Like Tim Burton, when he's 19 years old, talking about Batman, when he doesn't even know what the heck he's talking about, but knows how to do some creepy visual stuff. It's like, no, you completely lost the plot, and you wasted this great cast of Jeffrey Wright and Anthony Hopkins and
there was some quality to that first season, just like
quality, yeah.
comparing it to the original. Obviously, that's a different different matter altogether. But like just in terms of production, like and in terms of cast and performances, like there was a lot of quality there. So you are correct in that it's unfortunate that that was wasted.
Yeah, they decided instead of going with the brilliance that Michael Crichton did with regards to creating a computer virus, which had never been heard of at the time when they were making Westworld in the 70s, and decide, no, we're going to make it AI, and we're going to make it self-aware artificial intelligence. It's like, no, you've lost the plot, because it's not about creating another life. It's about when something goes haywire that you did not expect. And when you try to make it AI related in an area where AI was like nuclear radiation in the 50s and 60s for movies, you're just going to be as ridiculous as some of those science fiction films were, and nowhere near as fun or cheeky about it.
So are you telling me I should stop building my Interocitor?
No, go right ahead, man. That's awesome.
Oh. Because I need to interocit stuff.
Noted.
You do you, man. No judgment. For those in the chat who are wondering what we're talking about, this is Westworld, the TV show. So if it sounds interesting to you, lower your expectations.
Watch the first season and then quit. Just don't go back.
Just watch the movie. It's way better. But don't watch the sequel.
So I did finally figure out what my sci-fi comic I'm going to make in the future is. I won't talk about it now, but I've been doing a lot of hard sci-fi watch and then studying a lot of that shit, and I'm like, all right, I got my gimmick now. So expect some sci-fi stuff from me in the future. Folks, make sure you subscribe to find out about all that and a lot more.
Expect some texts in the future.
Yeah, I want to hear more about this.
Oh, yeah.
You got me curious.
Look, when you're able to work at a cool speed and you're 25% of the way through your next book, you know, ideas have to keep coming. Luckily, if I could freeze time, what I would honestly do is if I could freeze time and charge this iPad and use my computer, I would write every story idea I have, map it out, draw it, and then we'd be here back in the present, and I would just keep releasing those stories because I got probably 50 ideas. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this message from Adama, who says, "Hail to the High Council. What are the 90s equivalents of these two classics?" And I was reading about this and thinking about it. The Breakfast Club and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And it's me, Austin. Well, we will press that button for you at the end of this. But what do you guys think are 90s equivalents? Because the John Hughes coming-of-age movie, in the 90s, you get the sex comedy.
Yeah.
And it's a little less innocent. So, like, in terms of scale, like, American Pie was a really popular movie that made a ton of money and was really relevant. 99.
It was 99, okay. Because sex comedies have been around since the early 80s with like Hot Dog
Porky's
Movie and
Porky's.
Porky's, yeah, Private
Revenge of the Nerds.
Revenge of the Nerds, yep.
Well, like Script, they kept lowering the age in a lot of these movies. Because like in the 80s, you might have teenagers doing this stuff. But in the 90s, they do like the kids version. So it's like you're putting kids through some of the ringer that the John Hughes characters are going through. And they make those kids, you know, they're putting them in more adult situations. Like, that's what I remember.
Well, if you want to stay with John Hughes, Home Alone was a phenomenon that was in the 90s.
But is it equivalent to like The Breakfast Club or Ferris Bueller's Day Off, which are teen kind of, you know, coming of age, like two very different films, but both kind of set within that time frame.
That both have male and female appeal, because a lot of the 90s like teen movies are like girl movies. Like, I'm not trying to be like She's All That, Can't Hardly Wait, Cruel Intentions, Clueless, 10 Things I Hate About You. Dudes weren't really going out to watch these ones as much. There's like
But I do like all of those.
I think some of those movies are good too. 10 Things I Hate About You, solid. I haven't seen the other ones I listed besides. Did I say Clueless? I've seen that movie.
Yeah, Clueless.
I was gonna say, if you hadn't seen Clueless, I was gonna be like, what were you doing at that time? Because it was everywhere. Like you couldn't.
Buddy, I was 7 years old.
Yeah, well, I mean, still, I feel like
I feel like you young for Clueless.
I feel like you would have known, you know, a girl who would have made you watch it a little bit later, or you know, like
actually, we rented it. I rented it as a kid because I thought Alicia Silverstone was cute, and I was like, this is that movie everybody talks about. So I rented it and watched it. But...
Well, by the time you were 13, you probably could have seen it on TNT like twice a day or something like that. Like after an episode of their Blade TV series, they'd be Clueless.
It had something for men though. Clueless had Donald Faison in there being funny.
Yeah, they had Paul Rudd.
He's a cake boy.
I did watch the
stand out to me.
Clueless TV show way more than I ever saw the movie.
Okay,
I don't know why, but I've seen a lot. I've seen the show a bunch. But no, Adama, like I'm looking at a list of '90s teen movies. like there's a ton of teen horror, but that was around in the 80s. I can't really find an equivalent of The Breakfast Club. And is there a really cool guy character from the 90s that like that transcends the movie like Ferris Bueller does? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so either.
Ian Malcolm.
Too old. That's like saying Han Solo's the coolest kid at Shermer High School.
That's like saying
he's my favorite character in the franchise, so I'm always going to choose him.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course.
He's the best. Freaking love Jeff Goldblum.
I agree with that. Jeff Goldblum.
No, he's fantastic. Fantastic in those movies.
Yeah, Adama, that's an excellent question. And now you got me going down this 90s rabbit hole. I guess the only, like, in the 90s, the big teen comedies were either the sex comedies or the horror movies, like Scream and The Faculty, which...
Scream, The Faculty, I know what you did last summer, yeah.
The Faculty's a lot of fun. I like that movie.
Yeah, dude, Josh Hartnett, who's starting to make a kind of a comeback in the last couple of years.
He was good in, what was that movie?
Oppenheimer.
And the Shyamalan movie where he was the lead. Oh, what was that? It just came out this past summer. Trap.
He's still making movies?
Too.
Trap, yeah.
Oh, dude, Shyamalan's been making... He made a comeback about 10 years ago, maybe 11 years ago at this point.
Well, he's found his pocket because he's not fully studio backed, but he does know how to get financing for his films, and he's going in his own way now. He still does his gimmicks, but every once in a while, when you hear that he's working on something that's not going to be a quote unquote Shyamalan twist ending thing, you get more excited because you're like, oh, you're taking a risk. I mean, Lady in the Water was a risk, and then he backpedaled towards the end of the production of that.
Well, he did. It's like he hit it out of the park with what's the one where James McAvoy is? Where James McAvoy is the Split.
Oh,
He like people really liked Split, and then when they really loved the cliffhanger ending where it was like, oh, it's in the Unbreakable universe. What does this mean? And then he did Glass, and it was terrible. It was absolutely awful.
Dude,
and what a horrible way to end all of those characters and to like shoot all of that excitement in the foot.
That's the twist.
Yeah, the twist is you're going to leave unhappy. This thing you thought you wanted, you didn't want it.
I don't like this twist.
Here's the button you requested.
Who's that Pokemon?
It's me, Austin! Oh, son of a bitch!
Oh, yeah. This Sunday, I'm going to be saying it's me, Austin, all son of a bitch. Or, sorry, this Saturday for the Rumble. Folks, I might live tweet about it. We're not going to do a live stream or anything like that since, we don't usually move the needle with wrestling content. But
I will join you in that live tweeting if you decide to do it.
You know what? If I haven't had too many beers, because I will party for wrestling pay-per-views. The guys and I are getting together. We host this Rumble party every year. We draw numbers. We put money in the pot. Hell, the one year it was like $400 or $500 pot. It was like a really good one. So, yeah, we had a lot of people come over that year. This year, it's kind of up in the air. Ever since I moved away, all my friend groups kind of fractured. Like one moved and got married. The other guy went to Texas for some reason, and some people just...
Is that a personal attack or something?
Yes, you're my friend Corey, who's not... He's black. You don't look anything like him.
I don't know.
I'm gonna say it,
dude. I was there.
I could be black.
When I was 18, when all of my friends, we all moved to different parts of the country or planet. Like after my first year in LA, my girlfriend, who was still in college, got an internship in the Netherlands and took it. And so
what the hell?
Literally across, I was as the furthest west you could be on the planet to her at the furthest east she could be, and that was a really tough time. And sadly it just didn't work afterwards. But that's, you go through those points where opportunity comes and takes you to a new place, and sometimes you gotta you lose the regular scheduled hangouts with your friends, and then you're also like so grateful that the internet is the way it is so that you can still talk to them on a semi-regular basis without having to drive like 6-7 hours or fly a plane or anything just to hang out with them for a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to these my wrestling friends literally every day. When I did the artwork for the t-shirt, they were all geeking out. Or when we go to these shows, like, folks, I still got to make the video. I was like a plant at AEW. I didn't go to the show and like pay for tickets. They like put me on TV and put me in the front and all that shit because they couldn't sell it. But I'm going to tell you the whole story and how it went down in a video because I think you guys would like it. And Tony Khan was a little crazy, but he was nice. But let's talk about the main title right now because we put out a video yesterday talking about this, and we're going to be talking about this kind of stuff all the time. Oh, man, they're talking about action figures and asking me questions. Have I seen the new Bret Hart and Psycho Sid? Yeah, I have. I almost bought them on Sunday at Target Realist.
Oh, snap.
I bought a James Bond Hot Wheel instead because, look, this collection is getting a little big. I need a house. So I'm going to wait. I'm going to get some stuff. I'm going to open the P.O. Box in about a month. I know Jason in the chat's like, come on, man, please do it. And I'm so sorry, but I wasn't in the same location, and now I'm in a... I mean, I'm safe the whole time. I've been on camera the whole time, but I moved around a little bit, and now I'm closer to a post office, so I can make that happen for you guys. But, Realist, I was this close to getting Rick Rude, because the Rick Rude was nice, and then I was like, why do I want Psycho Sid? And my friend's like, because you have Hulk Hogan. And then I was like, but I don't have that Hulk Hogan, so I was going to have to get the Hulk Hogan with the right shirt, and I stopped myself there, because I do not want to start going down those rabbit holes of collecting. I literally can reach out and say, here's The Rock, or here's Han Solo, or this or that. Like, this video series is called My Life in Toys, because currently my life is in toys.
I bought the Sid and I bought the Rick Rude. I haven't picked up the Brett because it's like I have a lot of Bretts and it's like, do I need that specific Brett? I can't decide. But definitely picked up the Sid. I wish that he had collapsible leg action so that you could recreate when he
you could pop off of the joint because the boots are got that cut swivel. You could pop it out at the peg and just melt
Jeff,
it.
do you remember the promo that Scott Steiner cut the night after Sid broke his leg in their match?
I don't.
It's basically, it comes down to when he leapt off the top rope and his boot made contact with the chest of the big bad booty daddy. The shockwave traveled down one leg and out the other leg.
I absolutely love Scott Steiner promos. I hope he's at this con. I'm going to go meet him.
He is a cool dude to meet in person. We need more Steiner figures. They've only, since signing him to a Legends contract, they've only done the one. And we need him in the full on, Big Papa Pump gear. They've just done him in the red tights.
Okay, I wish they could get that Superman logo on there too, but they won't.
Oh, when they had the DC license, they could have. But
damn it, Mattel, that was a dream. But he was over in TNA talking about fat asses and all this other shit. So,
Smojo.
You know what's great though is that other wrestlers will cut the Steiner Math promo on each other and talk about a 144 and 2/3 chance of winning all this shit. And I'm just like, all right. Oh, I'm glad this promo never dies.
Yeah, it's great.
So, right now, folks, we're talking about Hasbro and how they're going to not be making toys anymore. So yesterday I dropped a video talking about this. It was citing this article and how Hasbro wants to move resources out of toy making and into video games because... Of course, Hasbro, this company that has such great original IPs that haven't been mined for video games already, is trying to put $1 billion into that. And I know you're thinking, Jeff, Hasbro makes Marvel toys and Star Wars toys. Those games are big money makers. Other companies make those video games.
I was going to say, they don't have the licensing rights to the games.
No, Ubisoft makes Star Wars, and Marvel's held by a myriad of different people. Hasbro's license that they own are like Transformers and G.I. Joe and Monopoly. And guess what? G.I. Joe, Monopoly, and Transformers video games have sold over the years, but they're not the game, they're not blockbuster video games. They're not really worth putting $1 billion into because, let's be honest, Hasbro's audience are dudes my age and older that grew up with toys, that are buying new stuff to relive the past or buying new stuff because it looks cool, and that's it. Trying to jump into video games on your own branding, I think it's a stupid move, especially when you're like, all the toys that you overproduce do not sell, which is where we come into the story. But Aaron, I'm glad that you were here for this because, last week I was going to talk about some of the Diamond stuff as a, fellow creator, but you're a diehard collector like me as well, and I wanted to know what you think about Hasbro cutting back and wanting to focus on video games instead.
I don't think they're going to know what the hell they're doing. I think that this will be just as successful as them deciding to get into movies and making their own movies. It's going to cost them a bunch of money, and then it's going to, I think this will be the end of Hasbro as a company. And then who knows who will snap up their IP. But I think that this guy's going to run the company into the ground pursuing this because it is a lot more expensive to make AAA video games than it is to make toys. And I understand that they just want to be an IP farm and they want to just kind of like push stuff out like they did. They're sending Power Rangers over to Playmates and letting Playmates make those toys. And they've licensed out like G.I. Joe to a certain extent, to Super 7 and some other companies to do some different, and Hiya Toys to make like the 3 3/4 and, Super 7 to make the reaction figures and the Ultimates and, just like carve up those licenses as best they can so that they just have licensing money coming in and they're not actually producing anything and taking the risk. But who did that was Mattel. Mattel did that with He-Man and they gave it to Super 7. And then Mattel was wondering, like at some point, somebody who was looking at the book said, what are these big checks that we keep getting from Super 7? And I was like, oh, those are the royalty payments on the Masters of the Universe stuff that they're doing. And it was like, why aren't we just making that in-house and making all of the money? And so they took the license. They took the license back from Super 7 and started doing their own. And they went back to the origins, which I don't like because to me I don't like to go backwards. But they also have been doing some really great stuff with the Masterverse stuff, which I really enjoy. And the Ninja Turtle crossovers, I've been picking those up and translating those parts onto Masterverse figures. So it's been a good good move for them. And that's where Hasbro will end up ultimately, is they'll put all this effort into video games. They will shoot themselves in the foot. It'll cost them a ton of money. It'll damage them further. And then they'll pivot back towards maybe we should, dance with who brought us and go back to their licenses.
Hasbro's been having a rough time of it in a lot of cases. I mean, with the exception of like, as stupid as it was with the way that they did it, like they're, because they own Wizards of the Coast, correct? Remember correctly? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the Lord of the Rings and Marvel sets for Magic the Gathering performed very well for them money-wise. In terms of what they did with the characters in Lord of the Rings, that's neither here nor there. It was stupid. But beyond that, like they've not been in a good place. Like a lot of places just sit. Well, just watch Jeff's toy videos. A lot of places just sit on their stuff, their Marvel Legends and all of this. Like you're not. I don't understand the mentality that says, okay, so we're performing really poorly in these things that we do actually know how to do when we're doing them well. What we're going to do instead is we're going to shift focus from the thing that we know how to do, but just been doing poorly for a while. And instead of redoubling our efforts there, we're going to go over into this market that we know piss all about, and we're going to try and make a footprint there. That's going to turn out well.
Yeah, you're exactly right. The only things that they have going for them right now is Transformers always does well. You
Yes.
don't see a lot of Transformers that's showing up at Ollie's.
No.
You do occasionally see like a piece here or there, or one particular like
Beast
case
Wars.
assortment will show up, at an Ollie's or at a Ross or things like that. But it's very rare. G.I. Joe Classified is doing very, very well for them. It's still some of their most reliable HasLabs. Is you do something for the G.I. Joe Classified line, and it's going to fund like first 24 hours generally. So those two things that they own are doing well for them. Marvel is doing very poorly, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they just turned out way too much movie product for movies that nobody cares about anymore. What's the other big failure they have? Oh, Star Wars. I mean, that speaks for itself. You cannot sell anything Star Wars anymore. As somebody who is involved in the toy world and who actually, does some retail, and you can't give Star Wars away anymore. Even the original trilogy stuff, people are just, they've lost their connection.
There's oversaturation of it now.
Mm-hmm.
Like anybody that people like, even people like us who do like these things, we like the original trilogy stuff. People like me who like the prequel stuff or any of the stuff from a lot of the games, the Old Republic, things like that. They'll come out with something like, hey, here's the Luke Skywalker. It's like, looking at the 16 of them behind me. Yeah, I'm good, actually.
Mm-hmm.
You have 16 Luke Skywalkers too?
I do not have 16 Luke Skywalkers. I was using that as an example because Luke is a lot of people's favorite character. He's not mine.
One day on a stream, folks, I'll dig into this Star Wars box. It's just a tote by the shelf, but it's just full of figures. I'll count Luke Skywalker. If I have more than 16, what should I make myself do, Andrew?
Buy another freaking Rose Tico off of eBay.
No, dude, get 4 more Luke Skywalkers, making it even 20.
When I remember one time I was criticizing The Last Jedi, and someone online told me that, well, obviously you were never a Star Wars fan. And I had just been working in my storage that week and had sent some pictures to a friend, so they were on my phone. And so I responded immediately. I said, yeah, I'm not a Star Wars fan. Here's my life-size Darth Maul. Here's my life-size Yoda. Here's the Millennium Falcon that used to hang in the Toys R Us.
Bitch.
You know, that huge Millennium Falcon that's in my storage. Here are the 10 storage tubs filled with loose 3 3/4 figures. Here's the storage tub that's filled with all of my custom action figures from Star Wars, where I just started making background characters. You're right. I know. Here's all of my statues.
No, fake fan.
Yeah, you're right. I never cared about any of this.
No.
It's not like I could quote the movie almost verbatim and tell you what sound effects go where. Like, if you were to show me an alternate take of Star Wars, I could tell by the inflection on the actor's voice. But no, I'm not a fan. I don't like Disney, so I guess I'm not a Star Wars. I love those people.
You can't speak. You can't even do the alien languages.
If you don't like Disney Star Wars, you just don't like Star Wars. It's like,
you can't sit here and be
how rude.
You poco morato calma welpa aiska chu kawauki.
Why did you have to fry poor Greedo? Yeah, I know the English and the Huttese. Like, look, you know what's sad is it used to be fun to geek out about this shit. Like back in college, and, like in 08, I made a bunch of friends Star Wars related wise, and we would sit in the cafeteria, and we would have lunch, and we would bullshit and talk Star Wars, and then sometimes we'd go out into the Targets or the Walmart. Well, there was a Walmart. Anyway, we'd go out and we'd buy figures and we'd get books. I remember when Death Star came out and all these like little novels we would read and talk about it. It was fun because it was like the movies had ended and it was still kind of in the sphere of like popular culture, but like people weren't really into it. Plus, when you're in college, it's like, well, I drank a lot too. Anyway, you're partying in college, but you still got your, who you are. And that was like what we did. We would get together and we'd drink and talk about Star Wars. Nowadays, we don't. I have the same friends. We hate Star Wars. But no, I don't really foresee this being successful for Hasbro in the slightest bit. I don't think that their video games are going to move the needle. And right now, though, they're Clogeek, that's a true story.
Wow.
They're licensing Dungeons and Dragons to a slot machine company. So the first Hasbro video game is a Dungeons and Dragons gambling game, which they announced on the 5th of this month. So this is already in motion, and that's what we're getting. That's what Hasbro's $1 billion investment is. Gambling. Dungeons and Dragons gambling. Soon you're going to get real Monopoly, where you play with real money, and you go into real debt if you lose their Monopoly. Like, right? Is that something you guys really want to do?
Well, there's already apps of Monopoly apps online like that are fully licensed. I mean, right now, Hasbro is actually changing their entire business model way too late in the game because they have been established for decades as a toy manufacturer and distributor, which has appropriated some of the board games from other companies that no longer exist, like, for instance, Parker Brothers. They were a board game company. Hasbro was never really a board game company, and it didn't really work out for them when they had absorbed that company either. I think it just comes down to the fact that, number one, sadly, children don't like to play with toys anymore because screens are far more popular, and that's a cultural thing more so than an actual like failure of marketing part. It was cheaper to get an iPad or a tablet and hand it off to your kid to shut them up for a couple of hours, as opposed to giving them a couple of action figures, which, don't get me wrong, some parents wouldn't want to buy them because they could still choke on parts or break parts off and the kid would choke on them. But I just think that's, the Darwin approach to making sure that we have a strong and useful species.
Is it wrong that when you talked about kids choking on toys, I thought of that movie Day of the Dead where the guy gets ripped into half and he goes, choke on him, as he's getting eaten by the zombies? Kids choke on him! I knew that was dark. I apologize. I don't apologize.
You know what? I will say this. Hasbro would need a miracle in order to pull this off. And frankly, unless they somehow manage to find a way to do Transformers and G.I. Joe and a World of Warcraft type of thing, they are not going to move the needle any which way.
They've got so many different licenses that they could be making. And it would appeal. Like, look, are you going to be able to get kids into them? Not unless you have a really good cartoon to go along with it. And the problem is that the cartoons used to be on stations that everybody watched because there was only a couple of them. Mm-hmm. Now you throw something on Cartoon Network, that's not enough of an audience to make a toy line successful. That's what killed that's what killed Thundercats. That's what's killed a lot of these things. I think the only really successful toy line that's ever been part of a show on Cartoon Network was maybe Ben 10, because Ben 10, that toy line did great. But everything else just falls apart. So you're not going to be able to reach the kids. So what you should be doing is you should be doubling down on the customer base that you do have, guys like us. You've got Mask. You could be making 6-inch Mask figures to go as part of your, a subline of your G.I. Joe classified line, and those would sell. You could be.
Sorry to interrupt, Aaron, but what's crazy is that Shout on YouTube actually has the license to a lot of those cartoons, and they run 24-hour live streams of them in order of air. And the thing is, they only get maybe a couple thousand live viewers at a time, but most of them are adults. And then you find out a couple of them are like, they're saying, I'm here with my kid watching this show that I used to watch in the 80s growing up. He's loving it. It's like, okay, if the distribution is social media, YouTube, then why isn't Hasbro, to your point, Aaron, putting out stuff on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube, on X, to try and get people to get into their toys? I'm sorry to interrupt you on that. I just didn't want to.
No, you're absolutely right, and that's a huge point, and I was actually going to get there, so that's perfect. That was my argument with people when people were saying what we need is a Gargoyles reboot, and it's like, we really don't, because Gargoyles is on Disney Plus. You could just bring Greg Weisman back and do a new season of Gargoyles. Yeah. These things can continue. It's not like the old days where it's like, oh man, people are going to have to do a bunch of homework, and there's nowhere to find this stuff, or they're not going to go out and buy the DVDs or the the VHS tapes.
The accessibility for Gargoyles is there.
It's there, so you could do a new show, and it's pretty seamless. They could do the same. They could be running these GI Joes. These GI Joe episodes. Cops, bring back Cops fighting crime in a future time.
Yeah,
but if we already know that the powers that be at Hasbro, the higher ups, kind of hate the military. That's been out there. So if they kind of begrudgingly have gone back to GI Joe and are just amping it up because it's been successful. So they're probably not going to want to do Cops either. But it's just all fantasy stuff that you can tap into. Who owns Inhumanoids? Did Hasbro gobble up the company that made Inhumanoids? Do they own that IP now? There's all kinds of stuff that you can bring back, and you've got the cartoons to put out there that already exist. And are better than the stuff that's being produced today.
Just license out the distribution for it. Make money.
Well, I mean, you can go pretty far with licensing, but if you're not also making anything new or adding into your roster of products, you go stagnant, in which case you get back to where Hasbro is again, where you either buy something else that you then own and then relicense out, or you die, kind of like a shark in the ocean. If you don't have a moving shark, you're dead. And yeah, I was just noticing some people in the chat saying D.W. Brown, Hasbro has a YouTube channel. They've been playing Transformers and G.I. Joe episodes on live streams. That's great. So the question is, how do you get more people to come see that? It's like you got to hit you have to hit all the social media areas. Like TikTok is your perfect example to make a commercial for your YouTube streaming show. Because only people want to see is 8 to 15 seconds of a video. It's like, that's all you need for a commercial. Go watch your YouTube show. Then your YouTube show is your commercial for your toys. And that's how you kind of feed into all of that stuff. But I just don't understand. Marketing agencies don't do that anymore. Ad agencies don't even try anymore. It's all bottom of the barrel, not even making any effort.
Well, I can speak a little bit to this, actually, being a social media manager. So there's some inside baseball to all that when it comes to, so yes, you can, here's the thing, the attention span of most people that are on TikTok is relatively non-existent. Though these are people that are not that likely to want to hit another button in order to click a link to go elsewhere. That being said, a lot of these social media platforms will actually actively nerf your post's reach if you have a link attached to the post. Whether it's in the description, whether it's in the main caption, whatever it is, like Instagram and Facebook, so Meta in general, have a feature where if you're if you have a business account, right, you get X number of reels that you can post with a link attached to it for free per month, and it supposedly doesn't hurt your reach or anything like that. But otherwise, when you put links, the thing is, these social media platforms, they don't want you clicking away from their platform. right? They want you to just keep scrolling there because they have the ad revenue that they get there, right? They want you to stay perpetually on just that platform. They don't want you clicking away. And so utilizing things like TikTok, or shoot, even maybe to a lesser extent YouTube Shorts as a means of advertising can certainly help, but it's so heavily restricted by the platforms themselves because of the way that they operate. Because again, they don't want you, reasonably so. Like if I'm TikTok, right, I don't want people dropping in links that's going to take the viewership over to Instagram or wherever, right? I want the viewership here. This is where my ad revenue is. But it's a incredibly frustrating and annoying thing to have to deal with. I think that advertising on social media is important, but navigating is a tremendous pain in the ass.
Well, it's because they make it a pain in the ass. But if you take a look at the old network model, you would have commercials advertised on every channel, and guess what? It wouldn't take away any viewership because it's all cyclical. The fact of the matter is that social media could work the same way and actually be very lucrative for all of them if they would stop trying to block people from being able to explore its vast options.
That's the thing. Yeah. Right now, the opportunity, the potential is absolutely there. The potential is phenomenal. But unfortunately, as you just said, and as I said, the platforms themselves restrict that so heavily that it nerfs your reach.
It's so stupid because the internet is just another form of traditional over-the-air television waves.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Just another version of that. You just have, you as a user just have more control as to what you can pull into it, as opposed to the broadcasters being the ones that schedule the programming, and then you just have to schedule your life around that, as it were. Here, it's like, nope, it's out there for you to do whatever you want, whenever you can. And that was really beneficial. But one of the things that really stirred it into the wrong area, and one area that Hasbro is not going to be able to adapt to, is the fact that it's not part of their actual business model. It just isn't. It's like if Hasbro says, okay, we're now going to create our own little streaming service in addition to our video game. I mean, it's you're just you're just asking
sure,
for
why not?
Yeah. And the other part too is like the streaming service functions with the same type of model that an MMORPG has. You pay a monthly subscription. You go see content that is kind of updated very slightly every couple of weeks with a game update or a new download patch or some sort of thing that can occupy you till the next one comes out. And you realize, well, you can actually sustain that for a couple of years, but if you can't keep up, if you can't improve the game or add more stuff with the story or really make something flashy worth the monthly subscription, people are just going to leave and do the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when Netflix did that model, especially with their binging shows, and then all the studios did their streaming model following that, it ends up creating like this vacuous hole of conditioning people to just sit down, expect, okay, one day I'm going to be able to watch all the shows I want, and then I can go do whatever the heck I want on social media. Or I can go to work or, watch YouTube or anything else. Because one of the things that you kind of learn about is people only want to binge things that are complete. They don't want to binge things that are in production, because then they fall off. Because afterwards you're like, oh, I just watched 12 episodes in a weekend, and now in order for me to follow up on what the next set of 12 episodes are, I'm going to have to wait a year, maybe a year and a half.
Or I'm super invested in this show that I just watched 2 seasons of. I can't wait for season 3, and then Netflix goes, oh, by the way, we're canceling it.
We're canceling it. Why? Well, there's not enough traction with regards to its popularity because they're using the same network metrics of the network television, which only had a 4-month break between seasons versus the year break between seasons that Netflix has. I still think it's a miracle that Stranger Things is being able to round out at completion, given the fact that its viewership has actually steadily declined in every single in an identical per capita metric compared to some of their other hit shows that they've canceled after 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
I just can't believe that they're pushing forward with these kids that are now like 62 years old. They get older every week. I mean, Social Security is like right around the corner for Millie Bobby Brown. The thing with me is we live in a society where the attention spans and the patience have shrunk to almost zero, but the wait time for these shows are getting ridiculous, and I'm surprised that the companies don't capitalize on this. I wonder is there any like examples recently where they've overdone it with a show where it's like there's too much available and just people just tapped out?
Supernatural.
'Cause Supernatural?
Yeah. They added extra 5 seasons after they did their series finale. and they did hold on to their hardcore fans, but audiences then started tapping out because again, it's like, oh, this is in the 17th season, and it's like that's crazy for an hour-long show that's in the evening hours. That's not a soap opera, because soap operas they some of them have 50 seasons. They've been around for
Yeah.
2 generations. But they're a specific type of storytelling that and they know how to make that model work. If you're doing primetime hour-long horror, fantasy, sci-fi, or something like that, you run out of steam and people get sick and tired of it. What's that other show that people really like that's getting a revival? Suits. So yeah, Suits exploded on Netflix, even though it was like in the bottom tier of ratings and barely hung on when it was actually airing. And now they've got Suits LA coming out, and there's almost no buzz for it.
I was gonna say I saw an ad for that, and I was like, wait, like Suits ended how long ago? Like what are
Almost
we
a decade ago, I
what
think.
are we doing here, people? I just ultimately this move for Hasbro is so baffling to me because again, they have I don't understand the point of them going into the video game market and focusing on that. Like they're going to have no presence. Like, what are they going to do? Be like, hey, we own the toy licensing for G.I. Joe and Transformers. Yeah, okay, so War for Cybertron and what was the other Cybertron game that came out? Fall of Cybertron. Like, those 2 games were really good. Transformers fans loved them. It actually made a lot of new, younger Transformers fans out of a bunch of, like, a whole generation of kids that were old enough to play them, because those came out relatively around, I think, like the first 2 Michael Bay films. And so, they're right, wrong, or around the bend for that being the reason. Like, they still got into them because of those games and partially probably because of those movies. And so that's cool. That's cool that you got to grow your fan base there. But like, you don't have anything that's going to justify people wanting to be like, oh, I can't wait for Hasbro to make a video game. Like, what are we doing here? Like, you guys own you own Wizards of the Coast. Okay, cool. Like, y'all had no hand in Baldur's Gate 3. I can play that perfectly fine without you. I do not need your existence for that game. Right? Like,
Well,
there is
also-
literally no incentive.
And the way that you're rewriting the rules, anything that they do, anything Wizards of Coast does in-house with Dungeons and Dragons is going to be disastrous.
Yeah.
Gamers are more cutthroat than toy collectors.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't know how to describe it, because I play video games quite, I'm into it. I don't play on PC. That's the difference between me and a lot of people. I really don't care about some Super Rig or PC Master Race. I'm a console guy because gaming is a small part of my life these days. When I was younger, I was all about, oh man, I'm done with my homework. Let's fire up the PlayStation. Oh my God, we're all done with our classwork. Let's play Halo for 6 hours straight. Those times have come and gone. But if Hasbro thinks they're going to get away with cutting corners like they do in Toys R Us, because we're all collectors here, the thousands of people that are going to watch this stream in the future, tell me right now, how many times have you bought a figure from Hasbro only to have it reuse a part or be inaccurate because they didn't want to tool something new? How many Spider-Man figures do you have, because this is rhetorical, that have a fucking hole in their back because they wouldn't fill in a hole? So you just get this Spider-Man with a random like octagonal hole in his back because the character that they're reusing the body from 8 years ago had a hole in his back and they couldn't just sculpt it over and recast it. No. So if you're talking about like a company that wants to sell you 5,000 pieces of DLC and microtransactions, it's like Malibu Stacy's going to get a new hat and then a blue hat and a gold hat, and that's all it's going to be. It's going to be the most basic copy and paste garbage, and it's going to be derivative too. You think Fortnite's cookie cutter or some of these other arena shooters or this crap everybody else plays? Wait till Hasbro gets in the game. It'll be like Transformers, G.I. Joe, Fortnite. And at first people will be like, that sounds cool, and then you'll play it. And honestly too, Hasbro's audience is old. Video games appeal to everybody, and we have data that came out last year discussing that for the first time ever, adults ages 18 and up became the primary toy buyers. My audience that's out there watching, you guys are not little kids watching this channel. You're all older. I meet you guys. I met a guy named Charlie the other week at he writes his name at the ollies on the boxes for WCBS, and I ran into the guy at a wrestling show. Like, I meet you guys. You're not little kids coming up to me going, oh, we love your videos or this or that. No. And Hasbro's audience is the same age. All the toy buyers are. That's why when you walk into Target, it's G.I. Joe, and well, here's what it really is when you walk into Target. Ninja Turtles, The Simpsons, stuff that's been on the air or off the air, but it's been on the shelves for like 30 years straight. You know, you can go into a store, we talked about at the beginning, there's Rick Rude and Hulk Hogan, the wrestling figure. Now, wrestling's a little different. They cover both generations. But overall, like, you go in, a guy my age, I can find shit that I grew up with. Like, Darkwing Duck or Batman the Animated Series is still around. It never went away. And it, like I say in the video proper, we're in this cycle of nostalgia, but it ends with us, or it just doesn't end. Because we're not creating anything new. We've reached the end of, you know, the ice wall that we talk about. I'm being sarcastic here. But we've reached the end of it. And now there's nothing else to go back because we have stopped creating new stuff. And this is just from the collecting standpoint. I'm not trying to get too philosophical on you right now. But it's like, I'm trying to think, like, going back, what are these, like, the last great toy line? You mentioned Ben 10. That was a big thing. We'll get some Ben 10 nostalgia, maybe. But that generation that grew up with Ben 10 also grew up with technology. And it's more than likely that their kids will grow up with screens and stuff. And they won't feel the urge to introduce them to those kinds of toys. Like, we're it, and they have not let us go. Because I remember growing up thinking, man, why are there Transformers and G.I. Joes and He-Man everywhere? This is before my time. I don't care, and I can't wait till they make stuff that's for me. And now I'm here, and I kind of hate it. I kind of like it, but I'm bored. It's like, I like The Rock. How many Rock figures are they gonna make? Not the one I want, but they'll keep making other ones.
Wait, which one do you want? Which one do you want?
I want WrestleMania 2000 Rock, or I want Survivor Series 99 Rock. And the thing is, they've tooled the parts. They just painted different colors on these other releases. So it's just all gold or all silver with pointy sideburns. But they'll never make it. They keep making it's like Hasbro. They keep putting the wrong heads on the wrong bodies and the wrong shit. And as a collector, you pull your fucking hair out because you're like, I'm not going to buy this and correct it myself. And so you just don't buy it. At least this is me. And then they just never make it. And you're just like, oh, well, I guess I'm just not getting that WrestleMania 2000 Rock. So
yeah, see, I want a WCW, and I thought it was going to happen. I think
WCW.
WCW. I think they actually tooled it, but then he was out of the company too quickly off of his Legends contract. Which is, I just wanted a Jeff Jarrett and Slapnut shirt.
Yeah,
from WCW. That I just wanted that. I just want a Buff Bagwell for my NWO to pair up with Steiner with the top hat and everything. You know, can we get around to signing some of those people? But
I think if the WWE was smart with TKO money, they should go and they should do like an internal audit of who are the most popular wrestlers of all time, look at their merchandise sales, look at the possibility of the return on investment, and just map out, like, look, you know, let's use Scott Steiner. Scott Steiner's popular enough that we can justify this, this, and that. All right, you just get everybody, and you sign them under a deal, you make an action figure or two, and you put them in the video game, and you just keep doing it that way. Because most wrestlers are somebody's favorite wrestler, and a lot of the big names have enough fans that will go out and spend, like you mentioned Jeff Jarrett. I just watched Jeff Jarrett wrestle 2 weeks ago at AEW. He's going to have a match possibly for a title. People were cheering Jeff Jarrett on, so you know there's a fan base for it. And it doesn't matter if you're older or not. Like Jesse the Body Ventura, they're going to start making Jesse the Body Ventura figures. He was around before I was born, but I'm going to go pick him up because Jesse's awesome. And that's what you kind of get with a lot of like some of this collector stuff, good collector stuff, is it gets you to go back and appreciate the older era. Like Star Wars doesn't really do that because they're finally making some good figures. That's the messed up part. For as much as everyone's burnt out on Star Wars, they're actually producing some cool toys. Like the little 3 3/4 inch vintage style figures, they're starting to look good. There's a good Darth Vader, a good Stormtrooper, a good Luke, and a good Princess Leia. Well, you guys don't care about that because Disney burned you. So that's fine. I'm not telling you should go out and buy it. But it's kind of a tragedy where it's like they finally got it together. And they're even listening to what Retro Blastin' said in the video. They crowdfunded the Mos Eisley Cantina, which I didn't buy. But what are they doing? They're releasing all the Cantina people and Luke Skywalker and all the people to populate it. It's like they're finally figuring out how to do the stuff for the collectors, but it's too late because everybody hates Star Wars these days.
Well, yeah, you damaged your brand way too much.
And yeah, and you insulted all of us. It's like you told us that you didn't want us, and we said okay.
Yeah, so I can spend my money elsewhere.
By the way, folks, I love everybody the same, but Fox Hills is officially the listener of the day. WCBS is greater than WCW. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Oh. Yeah, I love that we have so many people here and we're actually talking about toys and fun collectible stuff. I wish there was toy news every week to talk about. Jeez.
I didn't get the Cantina either, and once upon a time, I would have been all over that. The chance to get the Tonica sisters, I would have been all over it.
You know what, though? I'm guilty. I did go the Ecto-1 route.
Did you?
I did Wokebusters. How am I not going to get Ghostbusters?
Right.
No, that's fair. And I did. I do all
Look,
the.
I got all of these re-releases and shit.
Yeah, I
got them at Ollie's. Maybe I didn't, but
I know I'm like the only McFarlane Toys fan here, but he announced on one of his streams or one of the shows he was at this past week, like a handful of figures that I never in a million years would have expected anybody to release, and I'm like, of course McFarlane goes and does it. He's doing a freaking
Power Girl.
No, but he's doing that one as well. And I was pissed because, you know what? The internet age, accessibility is great, but it has made scalpers worse trash than they already were because the minute that those were available and up for pre-order, I went onto the website and they were already all sold out. And I'm like, this is absolutely ridiculous. But they're doing Garth of Atlantis, the Titan, and I have a goal. I'm getting all of the Flash family figures that McFarlane produces, and I'm getting all of the like Titans or Teen Titans characters that he does. And so he goes and he announces that they're doing Garth, which Garth never gets any love at all. They're doing freaking Dark Flash from that was Mark Waid's volume 8 of his run on the book. And this was like in the late 90s, I think, when that came out. This was forever ago. I never thought in a million years that thing would have gotten a freaking figure.
Gives me hope that we'll get Savitar.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Please.
I want a Preston Payne Clayface.
And they're doing Icon.
Oh, the milestones. Oh, now
he's doing Icon in his OG suit, and I'm like, what?
Maybe
Are you serious right now? I'm like, I have to get that. I have to get that. I was blown away. And they're also doing the freaking OG, the 1940s Superman as well.
Superman?
Yeah.
That one on pre-order.
And I'm like, what the hell? Of course he's going to go and do that. When I'm like, all right, like I ordered a bunch of Godzilla high quality Hiya Toys figures this past year. Those are all going to be coming in this first quarter. I'm good on toys. And then he's got to go and do that. I'm like, man, I can't not.
Well, see, look, I'm not gonna diss McFarlane. I do have my complaints about his toy lines. Mostly Same. That they're too tall. The legs, the thighs are way too long. But I do occasionally pick up, one here or there. Like I had to. Pick up
nice.
Sinestro,
that's great.
There's, but I'm a little bit more choosy with his stuff. Because it doesn't scale properly with the rest of my collection. But if it's
I'm primarily a statue guy, so I'm very selective with the action figures that I get. So most of my action figures that I have are McFarlane's, and I like the larger figures that he does. And then outside of that, I'll have like really expensive, like your Square Enix Play Arts Kai's, right, which are even bigger, right? But I don't. I'm not the same in that I know a lot of people they like to have all of theirs in the relatively same scale. And McFarlane is that guy where he does his in that kind of weird larger scale.
Yeah, he either goes smaller or he goes too tall. Like he's always like, people are like, hey, the 6-inch scale is the standard, and he's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm gonna have a sandwich.
Todd does certain things well, like the fact that he gives us vehicles, because I own 2 or 3 Todd McFarlane figures.
Dude, I wanted the Batman Forever Batmobile so bad. I just was not able to get it at the time.
I got
I did not. That one did nothing for me. But
I wanted it because that's one of my favorite Batmobiles of all time. I have a special place in my heart for that Batmobile.
Buddy, it's a new thing. You can still find it. That's not.
Yeah, it's still out there.
That just kind of got released a few months ago.
So yeah, people are probably selling it secondhand for
stupid. No, you can still get it at retail.
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I'll send you a link to it if you're really curious. Like I will not go Batman and Robin, but I really want to go Batman Forever.
Yeah, Batman Forever is one of 2 Batmobiles I would want. I would want that, and I would want animated series.
I got that in the box from McFarlane. It's a giant box.
Like I love the '89 one, but I love the animated series one more.
No,
I didn't get the
classic
McFarlane.
from '92.
Ooh,
Yeah, I didn't get the
blue.
McFarlane animated one because I already had the DC Direct one that they had done when they had the license.
I didn't buy that
and
one.
so I was like, okay, cool, I've got that. But I did, man, as soon as the Amazon version, I got tipped off. So he released the regular version of the '89 Batmobile, which is more kind of like, I don't really like it because the canopy's kind of like see-through and things like that. And then a friend of mine told me, no, Amazon's going to get an exclusive one that has the correct top. And so I was on top of that the moment that went up for order. So,
but it came with a figure, though. That was the reason why I wasn't. I think that's the thing. His Batman is garbage. Like, he has had to remake it. He resculpt. Not he personally. Look, Todd McFarlane can draw. I don't think he can sculpt to save his life. But my point is, like, they re-released. They're redoing that Batman cowl because it was wrong the first time. It's wrong the second time. And this is where I, as a collector, kind of step in and go, how many times do I need to rebuy the same figure for a company to get it right when I can spend maybe more than I want to and get one figure that looks the part? And I know this is, I'm on my own island on this one, but like that Mezco 112 Michael Keaton Batman, it doesn't have the best engineering, but for my usage of it, just stands there on a shelf. It looks like a little Michael Keaton, and it looks great in front of his Batmobile, and that's all I need. I don't want to get like 20 versions of like, and the thing is, I have like 20 versions of Michael Keaton Batman, but they're always trying to like upgrade these McFarlane figures, and I go, Todd, brother, you can do this right the first time. And I
no, he can't.
Totally
he can't. He literally can't because of the person that he has in charge of quality control, and that's all I'll say about that. But get somebody in there who actually cares and who isn't like up his own ass and thinks that he's the greatest ever, and you will actually have products come out right the first time.
Hire me. I'm qualified. I know the art part of it.
I'm gonna try and go meet him at MegaCon in a what is it, a week and change?
Andrew, you're gonna be at MegaCon?
Yeah, I'm gonna be at MegaCon.
I'm gonna be at MegaCon.
Well, hell yeah, we'll have to meet up.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be there the Friday through the Sunday.
Nice. I got to reach out to Gary. I didn't know I was going at the time that they were like RSVPing, but I'm sure I can talk to Melissa.
Yeah, there's gonna be a meetup and all that nonsense on Saturday, but yeah, I'll be there, and I'm really hoping. I'm gonna be working my butt off the whole weekend, but like I'm hoping that I can break away and find enough time to like just try and meet McFarlane. Like that will make me happy. If for no other reason than to like, obviously he was impactful for me growing up. You know Venom and his run on Spider-Man and all that. But I want to like thank him for being like the one person making action figures of the Flash family members who get zero love anywhere ever. And I want to be like you doing this single-handedly allowed me to have action figures of these characters.
I told him at New York, maybe like 2 years ago, at New York Comic Con that I wanted him to do Young Justice versions of all the characters because I think they're some of the best DC designs.
I mean, if he did it for Bart and Wally, I would get those. I would get Barry as well, but I'd be annoyed because they gave Barry Wally's suit in that show.
I would get Cheshire. I would get Simon. I would get Clarion the Witch Boy. But mind you, these are all characters that I didn't care about before the first 2 seasons of Young Justice. They never did anything for me in the comics, and then they made me like Sportsmaster.
Greg Weisman did great with Sportsmaster. Fun fact: before they ended up not going with Katana instead of Cheshire, when I was working on props for Suicide Squad, David Ayer's one, I actually built a first step model of the Cheshire mask inspired by the one from Young Justice that you can actually pull away, like the 3D one. And we almost got it into full production, but they decided, no, we're going to go. David wants to go with Katana instead of Cheshire Cat. And I was like, so I've got this plastic thing just sitting on my shelf that I made. And it's got like partial paint jobs and all the like the demarcation points and grooves for all the special effects and CGI marking and all that stuff. And it's just there. And I'm thinking maybe if I could get away with it, I could mold that into masks and sell it on like eBay or Etsy or something.
Yeah, no, it's funny because
take him to cons.
See, I did not know that. I did not know that originally they were thinking of doing Cheshire, and then he switched it, and then that movie ended up getting so butchered that it's probably for the best. But even he wanted to use Katana, and even she's produced too.
Yeah, she did nothing.
She's got my back.
Yeah, she's barely. Well, I'll put you this way: the fact that I was on set for a number of stuff, I'll tell you this: I don't think his Ire cut would be very much different in regards to like what the scenes are. Just the organization of them is going to be different, and you might get a couple of scenes where Joker and Harley kill a judge, which the stunt guys broke a lot of expensive stuff in that set when they weren't supposed to.
Every week I'll look at something online and go, I'm really glad we're out of the Snyder era. I'm not like, ready for James Gunn and I'm going to be like,
I thank God every day, dude.
But I'm just like, I'm glad this is over. And, I was on some kind of Facebook post the other day and somebody made a custom David Cornsweet Superman. And I was like, man, that looks awesome. And then I thought, too bad the real one from Todd McFarlane won't look this good. Because, he's going to cut corners somewhere, dude. Like, oh, it doesn't look like the actor. It looks more like Owen Wilson. And then the fans will go, oh, it's because Todd doesn't have the rights for the face, just the suit. It's like, that's not how this fucking licensing works. I hate that argument all the time. It's like,
no, well, now when you sign on to a project now, it comes along with it. I mean, back in the day,
it's been like that for a while.
Yeah, it's back in the day we didn't get that because it's like people didn't necessarily think of it. That's why we've never really had a decent Jack Nicholson Joker, in any kind of like 6-inch scale. It's why we've never had the entire cast of Predator made into, action figures. So, we still don't have a Jesse the Body. We don't have Mac. We don't have Poncho. We don't have, it's like the only characters we've ever had are Dutch and Hawkins because it's the only people they've ever been able to get the rights to. And the only reason we got Hawkins was because Shane Black came back and did that terrible Predator movie, but they were able to get him signed. But because they just didn't have those deals, they weren't as smart as George Lucas signing everybody's likeness rights, right
From
away,
the
and having the rights to their likeness for the rest of his life in perpetuity.
Yet they still can't get a decent Harrison Ford sculpt on an action figure. Like,
almost never.
Yeah, maybe. Out of the hundreds that exist, maybe out of the 100 plus that exist, maybe like 2 actually look like Harrison Ford in the face. And
they've never gotten Oscar Isaac right, too. Any of the Poe Damerons they did never looked like him. You know what it is? It's
not the sculpt, it's the paint. Because I saw some guy who actually liked him. He just took the figure and repainted the face. It looks dead on Oscar Isaac. All of those I hate those movies, but all the sequel trilogy figures, they scan their faces. Like I've seen the Harrison Ford repainted. I've seen the Carrie Fisher. They all look great when they're repainted. But it's those movies, so no one cares. But I just don't get how a company literally they can make a little Michael Keaton 35 years ago that looked like Michael Keaton. That little Kenner, I think the Kenner head sculpt looked good all those years ago, and it still looks like him.
Yeah,
but you get giant ones that don't look like Harrison Ford. Maybe he's just got an asymmetrical face that's hard for that. But
they always get the hair right though for Han Solo.
Hold on though. There's a brand new hot toy that looks just like him in the face, but the hair's off. And I'm like, what? Yeah, hold on. I'll show you a picture of it. It's actually worth looking at because I think it looks just like him. I'm like, finally, the perfect Han Solo. Let me buy this. And then I see the picture of the hair, and I'm like, that hair is way off. And so it's like too big it's distracting almost. That's why I'm not getting it. But the face is on point. Like, here, tell me that this one, they didn't get the likeness right because I feel like this is spot on. I mean, it looks like Harrison Ford, but I think his hair is just way too big, and I'm like,
parts in the wrong spot.
Yep.
His hair kind of looks like they put some hair product that adds some volume.
Yeah,
I know he had big hair in Return of the Jedi, but it wasn't that big.
Yeah.
I also don't think he had that hair.
It wasn't that thick either.
Yeah.
I know people are like, why do you guys care? Well, I care about the accuracy of all my collectibles. Like, if I'm going to buy a toy, and I'm not embarrassed to call it a toy or a doll, it doesn't bother me.
Well, especially if it's
spot on.
Especially if it's meant to be from someone in a movie specifically. Like, it should absolutely look like that actor.
Yeah. If they could just resculpt the hair,
with that
I'd buy this tomorrow.
With that hair, he looks more like Jeff Bridges than he does.
Oh my God.
It's true.
Why?
It's like Clue from Tron Legacy.
Oh, it does.
That movie doesn't get enough respect. I like Tron Legacy. I do
too.
When I saw it in theaters, and I like it still.
I hate the fact that they're doing another Tron and they're not going to reference it.
And it's also got Jared Leto into it. And guess what? Jared Leto is not an actor that people want to go see in movies.
You just sold me on not going to see it.
Yeah, dude, they cast him as Skeletor, and I'm like, Skeletor is the one character in He-Man you have to get right. Not only because of my generation, which grew up with Skeletor, but Skeletor is such a familiar meme to kids now on TikTok and things like that. You just got to knock Skeletor out of the park. You're already messing up He-Man.
As
You're
long
already
as
doing you're making the same mistake, where you're like, oh, but a good portion of it's going to be set on Earth. That's not what anybody wants.
No, they did that before. It didn't work. However, if they ask Alan Oppenheimer to dub over Jared Leto's lines with his own voice, because he's still alive and he can still do a pretty good Skeletor, I would be all down for it, because Jared Leto already has the bone structure for Skeletor.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah.
I just don't want to hear him talk.
Yeah. I don't want to hear him talk, and I don't want to see what he brings to the role, what weird eccentricity he, decides.
I hold to this day that if that script wasn't absolute dog water and he had been reined in a little bit, he actually could have been a good Joker. But that's not what we got. Because he wasn't reined in and the script wasn't good.
Yeah, and the design was terrible.
The design was awful. The design had no business looking like that at all. The design was like, this is probably the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my life.
They were said, go as far away from Jared Leto, from Heath Ledger's Joker as you could. I'm like, well, I wasn't part of it, but I said, well, that definitely went as far away as you could get.
Yeah, if you characterization wise, if you want to do that, that's one thing.
Yeah.
Because Jared, oh my gosh, Heath Ledger. I don't know why I blanked for a second there.
That's okay. I've been blanking all week.
Names just all of a sudden became a non-operable activity for me. Yeah, Heath Ledger's Joker was a fantastic performance for sure. Moving away from that and being more like the comic books, so adding a little more whimsy into it, adding something that wasn't just like psychopath, would have been the right move to do, because also you don't want to retread old ground, and also that's ground that it wasn't accurate to the character to begin with. It worked within the context of the Nolan movie, sure, but you also don't want to be like, oh, well, we're up against the performance that was genuinely fantastic, and the guy died during the process, so let's leave that in the past, let him have that, let's move towards this direction over here. But then they were like, hey, but let's also make him look like some stupid tatted up gangster and give him a grill and not
the choice
rein
of the
in
tats too, oh, what did we do? We tattooed ha 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 all over his chest.
Right.
And look,
awful.
He's got a smile on his hand, so he can go like this, even though he technically all right, hey, why don't we just paint a little mustache on his finger, and he can do that too? It'll be really great.
Right,
damaged on his forehead. Did you see the meme when that came out, when the damaged picture was revealed and everybody was hating on it? And they were like, I don't know, somebody put out a meme and they were like, I don't know what everybody's complaining about. It's not like, a tattoo hasn't been the part of the Joker since the beginning. And it was Cesar Romero's Joker, and it said on his forehead, secret mustache.
That's great. Well, and the thing was, and I say that because there are moments, there's only a couple of them, but there are moments in that movie where you can see the potential of him, again, with a better script and being reined in and not going full crazy Jared Leto, there could have actually been something here. But instead they made all of the wrong choices everywhere. And we got the most embarrassing thing I've witnessed.
When he comes in to interrogate or to intimidate the prison guard.
Yeah.
That is a genuinely unsettling scene.
Yeah, it's great.
You don't know what he's gonna do, and there's an uneasiness to that whole thing.
Yeah.
And he's doing a little bit of Ace Ventura, with his whole honka honka, but you can see the Joker doing that, and it since you don't know what he's gonna do, and he is so kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It is a decent scene. I would have liked to have seen the air cut just to see. I always like to see alternate versions of things to see how they might have turned out.
I still want to see the Schumacher cut. I like Batman Forever enough as it is, and I bet an alternate cut of it would make it a more respected movie, because it's got glimmers of hope, and then it's got stupid stuff. But then there's glimmers of hope, and then I don't even know what the worst part of that movie is. Batman and Robin's the bad one. Batman Forever is not the bad one.
Tommy Lee Jones deciding to make Two-Face one note is probably the worst decision in that.
Tommy Lee Jones also trying to up himself to be on equal attention grabbing game with Jim Carrey.
Which was not that like that's not how that character is supposed to work.
Yeah.
It would have been better to go the other direction and have Two-Face be Two-Face and be cold and stoic and, way more controlled and in comparison, and been a nice contrast to Jim Carrey. Because you're not going to out Jim Carrey.
No, it's not happening. Exactly. Especially in the 90s. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, he's channeling, he's saying, I'm going to do what Frank Gorshin did my own way. And that's what Jim Carrey did for the Riddler. Mm-hmm. I think Billy D. Williams probably would have been able to bounce off of Jim Carrey playing it the way people expected if they decided to bring him back, because Billy really wanted to do Two-Face. Especially when he found out that that's who Harvey Dent was and that he gets half his face scarred. He's like, really? I'll get to do that in the next, if this takes off. And then, of course, they got betrayed. However, there apparently is a Schumacher cut that is touring North America, but it's done so for free. So the people behind it, I guess, four-wall the theater, and then it's free tickets, because if you make profit off of, that you're a violation of of course, the rights to the initial film. But apparently it's going around there, so you have to keep your eyes and ears open for when it's heading to your city. And then, you don't have to pay for the ticket, but you got to get on a list, I think.
I'm going to try to get on that list because I do want to see that alternate cut. I've watched Batman Forever so many times as a kid, but when I was about, I don't know, maybe 10, I flipped the switch back to Batman 89, and I've maybe watched Batman Forever 5 times in 10 years. But I got it on 4K, so it's
dude, I haven't. Does it look good in 4K?
It looks wonderful. It's so.
I haven't seen the movie since it was only on VHS.
Well,
it's ahead of its time too, because the box is essentially like social media and then data collection and then using it to manipulate markets, and I mean, good 25 years ahead of its time,
dude. If you take that and Tomorrow Never Dies.
Mm-hmm.
You have today's world, because those two premises of the box and the way Elliot Carver knows tomorrow's news today type of thing, like just the way the media manipulation, it's, I don't know, those movies are looked back on as hokey and stupid, but they have some good ideas that, if explored properly, could be retold in a better, like, I'm not saying you need to remake Tomorrow Never Dies or remake Batman Forever, but seeing James Bond go up against that kind of a villain where he's not a government and it's not a knock list or it's not some kind of chemical weapon that Daniel Craig was always dealing with, I think it'll be interesting to see, Bond face some kind of that, that kind of tyrant, and see what a government would have to do. You could probably do a really great story about that kind of a character going up against well, maybe I'll just write it myself. Fuck it. James Bond's dead. But I wanted to put this on screen real quick because, people, you're talking about faces. Let me check in with the audience first, because those guys have been very patient, and we have a lot of wonderful people watching. Folks, do us a favor, just hit that thumbs up button. All we're going to ask is that you hit the thumbs up button, and it helps us become more searchable in the algorithm, and then more people can find us, and that's good for everybody, because we are world class after all. So, Enrique Vasquez, thank you very much. He says, "Hail, High Council. I watched A Haunting for the first time, but all I could think about was Scary Movie 2 and lulling. What movie has been ruined by a parody?" Ooh,
a whole bunch of 90s movies got roasted by not just another teen movie.
Yeah,
Scream.
That's true.
I can't watch Scream because Scream and Scary Movie have the same dialogue, and I think Scary Movie is a funnier, it's a comedy, but I find it more enjoyable than Scream. I don't like Scream. The meta nature was lost on me as a kid, and now that I get it as an adult, I'm not nostalgic for it. But Scary Movie,
have actually never seen Scream.
It's worth watching. It's important historically to horror.
I've at least seen The Thing, okay? Even though I can only claim that within the last year, I have seen it.
that's a different director, but that's still a great movie. Scream is like it's a watershed moment with regards to the types
Scream was Scream Wes Craven?
Yes, Scream is Wes Craven. Yeah.
But you're correct, Script. It is a very important watershed moment, and so many movies copied that trend after Scream. You jump into I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend. What was that one? Cherry Fall. The one about the Tooth Fairy. That was actually okay. but there were a ton of those movies.
Darkness Falls.
That's what it's. Darkness Falls. Okay. Yeah,
And
I
the
remember
original
watching
design for the Tooth Fairy, McFarlane made a figure of it, and that's not the design that ended up getting used in the final film. So there's just this weird Tooth Fairy character out there. By the way,
like
does
those
it bother
McFarlane
anybody
toys.
else? Am I the only person that's bothered by the fact that the sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer is called I Still Know What You Did Last Summer? When technically it should be I Still Know What You Did 2 summers ago?
Yeah. Oh, it's
Don't
like Now
think
You
about
See
these
Me
things,
and the
Aaron.
sequel. of
Wow.
Now You See Me too.
Somebody didn't take 5 extra seconds to think about their naming scheme.
It's like it's been a year. It's been a year since the last movie. So technically, and since that was already a year prior to the events of the last movie, it's actually 2 summers ago.
That's amazing. I've never seen those movies, so I didn't even think about that, but that's hysterical.
Well, even the Friday movies get their order, right? Friday, next Friday, Friday after next.
Don't sleep on those. Those are okay. The first one's great. The second one, I actually like the second one pretty much. It's not one of those situations where the original's better, but man, does it have some good lines of dialogue. Third one, yeah, not into that one. But Enrique, I'll tell you, man, a lot of like you're right though. Not Another Teen Movie has ruined some of those for me, but not in a bad way. Like
No.
you can't ruin The Breakfast Club. You can't ruin Pretty in Pink, but you can make fun of She's All That or those like late 90s ones. And I'd rather watch Not Another Teen Movie than any of those other late 90s ones. Plus, Not Another Teen Movie gave us stuff like this.
Cry me a river, dickface.
And that, that's wonderful.
Brilliant movie because one of the most impressive aspects I've ever seen is the fact that they have the yellow Power Ranger from like Power Rangers Galaxy, I think it was. She's nude 100% of the time. And the joke is that not a single person except for the main female character notices that she's naked or stares at her. Everybody's always looking at something else. They're never looking at the naked woman in the shot. And I'm like, that is some discipline for every single actor on set.
Do you remember what her character's name was?
Probably Anya or something. Or
Now your voice sounds normal.
No, her name was Areola, and she was a foreign exchange student.
What the hell?
Yeah.
Of course. My God. I'm glad you're back with us with a normal voice there, Script. For a second, I was about to say you sound like you're talking from behind your pillow underwater.
Oh, I roboted a little there? Okay.
Not even roboted. You just sounded like you were talking through a pillow while underwater.
I'm nowhere near a pillow at all.
Are you near water, though?
Am I near water? I'm a good hour away from water.
I can get to the Ohio River pretty quick. Maybe I will never do a live stream from the Ohio River. It's brown. It's shitty. It's the Ohio River.
Right. Hey!
Lake
Superman!
Ontario is frozen. I could.
It's just Jeff being really sad next to a river.
I'll find the license and pay it for the Incredible Hulk theme music. Doon, 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 doon. Just play that sad piano music. This is the Ohio River, the once mighty Ohio River. You could cross it to freedom. Now, yeah. Thank you, Enrique. That was a fun question to ask. I'm probably going to think about that one later. Shrubbles08 says, I'll take a slap nuts and a 2 chick horses. That sounds way dirtier than it actually is.
Yeah, that sounds like something, well, we'll
save that for Rumble.
Do you guys remember when Mike Awesome was the fat chick thriller?
I do.
I just remember
my friends
Jeff
and
Jarrett hitting his love interest with his guitar and then getting in the ring and going, people are booing him and he grabs the mic and he goes, "Yeah, hit that fat broad. I didn't have all day to walk around her." It's just like, oh,
Damn!
That was his gimmick. Dude, that was Jeff Jarrett's gimmick in 99-2000. First he beat up Mae Young and Moolah, then he beat up the Cat, and then he beat up the random fat ladies in WCW. It was a time. Speaking of, here's a good time for Jeff Jarrett.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit. Jamie, pull that video up.
It's Mr. Flatnut to you.
And here is your other button.
Who are you? What are you doing here and where are my horses?
what the hell is that?
So strange.
Oh, you've never seen that?
No, what is that?
Well, do you want to see part 2 to it?
That is one of the weirdest things ever.
Sure. Oh my god, I hate that. I hate that so much.
You shouldn't have said that, because now that the audience knows you don't like it, they're going to request it, because Dion is afraid of horses. So that's why I found this button. And I have one of our listeners, Joseph Bianowicz, and a couple other guys will text me and be like, hey, send this to Dion. And Dion just like gives me the finger. So
why is Dion afraid of horses?
Do you want to know the real story?
Yeah, did he have a bad experience? It has to be something like that, right?
Because a horse paralyzed Christopher Reeve. That was his reasoning, he told me.
Okay, but just don't be on the back of the horse, and you're probably fine.
Or also don't like stand behind it either. That's a bad idea.
We were in New Orleans, and there were mules, not even real horses, but there were these mules like walking the street, and he like crossed the street to get away from them. They don't like anything bigger than me. I'm like, buddy, I'm bigger than you. Are we not friends anymore?
So is he terrified of Sarah Jessica Parker?
Yeah, well, no, she's a white woman, and that supersedes all horses.
There it is.
Lady,
did he go with you to AEW? Did he freak out when Aubrey Edwards came out?
No, Dion lives in Michigan. AEW is here in Cincinnati, so Dion only goes to WrestleMania with me, and we've seen 1 or 2 horses in person. Put it like this: on the show, we'll troll him. In person, when I see a horse or something around him, I just kind of like look at him, and he looks at me, and just nothing is ever said about it. So. Kind of like an agreed thing. Our friend Haywood Jablomi, a member for a month. Thank you, Haywood Jablomi. But folks, if you're a member, I'm going to sit down and narrate this. I've been going through the collection. So I got 2 videos of the comics so far. And I'm a comic collector. I'm a comic creator. I wanted to just share what I have. Maybe we can compare books or talk about that. So I filmed my first 2 Spider-Man boxes. The first box covers... well, I don't have issue 1, but it has what would be an Amazing Fantasy up through 199, and then the next box is 200 through 299. And spoiler alert, the 200 through 299 box is pretty packed. And wait till you get to the 3s and the 4s and the 5s and the 6s, where I have like all but 1 or 2 issues. So there's a lot of Spider-Man. And
that's awesome.
I love my collection. I don't read my comics though. Like I look at them now and I go, "Ooh, it's in good shape," and then I just put it back in the box.
Well, you could get a trade, or you could go read it online. I mean, there's
it's like I have all the original issues of Kraven's Last Hunt. Now just pull this book out and read it. Why do I need to touch Amazing Spider-Man number 2? I'm looking for a number because I can't remember.
211, 201.
No, it's almost issue 300, because you got to remember, Todd McFarlane comes in and kind of. I classify Spider-Man in like different categories. There's like the classic run with Ditko, then there's the new classic from like Romita to Todd McFarlane, and then Todd McFarlane ushers in 90s comic books, and then it all kind of falls apart. But if you're a member, you can watch that. I'm also working through collection videos. How would you want to watch collection videos? Do you want to go by like brand or IP? Like, do you want one that's all Power Rangers, all Batman, all wrestlers, all Marvel? All Inspector Gadget or Beetlejuice? Let me know. I even got this new bad boy that I have not taken out of the shipping box yet. Sideshow Beetlejuice.
So, nice. Very
dude,
cool.
I haven't even look at. I'll show you this much. The box is bitching. It looks like the videotape box from back in the day.
Oh, that's cool. Awesome.
But they even I'll put myself big for a minute. They even did the back, so it's got all the details on it.
That's effort put in.
Yeah, well, this was also $300, so it should have all that effort.
I would hope so. My God.
I'm not a cheap man, and I am not a frivolous man. If I pay top dollar for something, it better be top dollar, not that pro wrestler. Anyway, hey, would you blow me? Thank you for being a member. He says, did Hasbro not look over the Ubisoft these last 6 months? Dumpster fire, hashtag dumpster fire. Cheers from Canada. Well, thank you from America. Cheers to you up there. Hey, would you blow me? I don't know if Hasbro is like hyper focused. They got their blinders on how to stick it to the customers, but I don't think they're paying attention anyway. I don't think.
Their CEO is a dipshit.
Why can't a guy like I've never even tried to get a job in corporate America like that, but I'd be the perfect person to run Hasbro. I realize that most of our audience is older guys, so we're just going to sell to them until they die, and then I'm going to get a new job. But at least I made the audience happy.
If I could get a job in the toy industry, like I will make you money. Like they don't. This is the problem with these companies, is they go, hey, who should we hire? oh, hey, this guy has a marketing degree. And he comes in, and because, marketing is like, well, it's just, everything's just widgets. You're just all selling, selling units and blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what it is. So this guy is now in charge of your marketing, and this guy's going to make these decisions. And these, they don't hire people who understand the customer anymore.
Nope.
They hire by degree, and you get a lot of people. I mean, I don't know. I've met more useless people that have degrees than I have just laymen. I find people who have spent, a good 12 to 15 years in academia to be completely out of touch with the regular world.
Mm-hmm. Well, Aaron, I have one of those degrees that I could throw on a piece of paper, and I know what I'm talking about. Like, I would be that guy. It's like, hey, Hasbro, instead of trying to stroke us for $60 Spider-Man figures, why don't you, I don't know, why am I going to give this to you for free? Hire me. Well, I don't really
that Spider-Man should be $30.
Agreed.
40 at most.
We talked about that one that was just revealed. Was it last week or whatever?
Maximum
the
series?
maximum. Mm-hmm.
Bro.
Hasbro, y'all have no business charging that much.
This on the air. I got actually angry. I'm like, reading the people's comments, I'd happily pay $50 for this. Either you're an AI bot or a shill, and either way, shut up. Because it's not about what I want to pay. It's if they get away with a $50 or $60 action figure.
They'll start making that the standard.
Yeah, what they'll do is they'll release a Wolverine, then they'll release a Daredevil and a Deadpool, and they'll do all these $60 figures. But while you're watching these $60 figures, your $24 figures are now $30. But don't worry, Andrew, they're half the price. That means you get double the value. But really, you're just getting F'd in the A because your figures were $20 before the pandemic, and the quality hasn't increased. Yes, some of the face sculpts are pretty decent. They actually look like Robert Downey Jr. these days. But damn it, they do not justify a $60 price tag when I can go to Hobby Link Japan or any of these other ones that I go to and get the same figure, like a Japanese import, for $10 more than the hypothetical $60 Hasbro figure, and the Hasbro figures can't top that shit at all.
No, not even close. No, that's something a lot of people forget. Like, because I've actually, being a gamer, I've been seeing this conversation not around that $60 Hasbro Spidey, but around GTA 6.
The $100.
Because there's this rumor going around that they're gonna, potentially try charging $100 for the standard version of that game. Now, this is a rumor. Want that to be clear. This is not something that's been confirmed. However, there are people online saying, yeah, I would charge that. It's like, dude, you do not realize the Pandora's box you are tempting, and playing around with by saying, yeah, I would absolutely pay for that. I'm that much of a diehard GTA fan. I would pay $100 for a standard edition of GTA 6. You realize what the hell you're saying right now? Do you realize that game's also very much likely going to have the online mode? It's going to have their freaking Shark Cash, right? Which printed money for GTA 5, and I'm sure still to a degree do this day. That is an absolute rip-off, and when you do that, you are giving them the green light to try and justify doing that either the same degree down the line or even more so down the line.
The reason that you're paying $25 for Marvel Legends right now, I mean, I'm not, but the reason that they're asking,
I don't buy Marvel Legends. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I wait till they go to Ollie's or till I get them on sale or I can trade for them.
I own two Marvel Legends. I have the Emma Frost that they released a few years ago because that's my ex-wife, and I have the Renew Your Vows Spidey and Spinneret MJ.
You bought that?
The two pack, yeah, I have that.
I bought every Spider-Man they released for the 60th anniversary, and I regret it. And that's kind of where my hard line with Hasbro ended, because I got all these figures in the mail, and I went, I paid this for this, and I actually looked at it, and I went, it's not bad looking, but Andrew, none of the figures that I bought from Hasbro top the one Japanese import. So that's kind of because and I'll just be specific for a minute. Hasbro paints on the spider webs. Other nice figures, they sculpt them in, and then they put black paint over top of them, and they do like a wash, so the figure looks 3D. Now, I get it. His suit wouldn't have carved-in webs, but here's how this goes. Back in the day, when you get a Tobey Maguire figure, they would sculpt all the detail on the figure and paint the web lines, each one. Even on the fingers that had articulation, they could move from an open hand to a web hand. Those toys were like $7. Hasbro has a $24 modern equivalent, and it's not as good as a figure from 2002. And that's what really grinds my gears. It's like, charge me a premium price, Great. Here's technology.
Give me
brand new toy
quality
that's
if you're going to do that. Is the thing. Like I paid, what did I pay? Like $80 or $90 for the Revoltech Spider Armor Mark IVs and the Iron Spider figures that I have. Like those weren't cheap, but the quality justifies it. Like I can't justify spending more than $20 on a Marvel Legends. Like I'm good. Like I have the so I also have the No Way Home trio. Right? Where they did Holland, they did Toby.
Oh, I bought it too for $100.
And that's it.
See, I avoided it because I was like, they're gonna come out with like fake versions that have the unmasked faces. And I'm
those are the ones that I have. I have the unmasked ones.
Oh, so you got the retro card.
Yeah, with the retro box, which admittedly I don't like the retro box packaging personally. I like fold open boxes or just like nice complete boxes, not like just cardboard backing. That's a personal preference thing. I'm not a fan of the retro backing. It's not my cup of tea.
Now, real quick, Aaron's got to go in a few minutes, so folks, I'm going to read all your messages and give you all the time you guys require. But Aaron, I wanted to ask your opinion real quick on this. Have you guys been seeing the negative hype around this Superman movie? Like, is it me, or are they just like kind of either they can't win or they keep tripping over their own cape? It's one of the two things, because this image doesn't look great, but it doesn't also like bother me. It's just weird that they would release this specific image.
Yeah, I mean, that's a freeze frame on it. Like when I saw it, I was kind of like, it just kind of hammered home how much more I liked Henry Cavill as, visually as Superman, even though he never really got a chance to play Superman.
We agree. Least, thank you.
So everything about this movie, like when they ran the trailer, the only part that I really kind of like got excited about was the shot where he saves the little girl, and everything is exploding around him. Like I was like, that made me feel like, oh shit, that's Superman right there. But otherwise the trailer, I was just like, okay, I didn't dislike it, but it didn't get me excited. And nothing that they're showing is getting me excited for the movie. I'm just kind of like mildly interested at this point. And I don't know if that's just me, but I feel like, with the exception of like the YouTube shills that have to cry and weep over every moment of every trailer,
that's so exhausting.
Or or that piece of shit Matt Ramos, Soups, go let's have it go about everything. Like I hate that guy so much. And it turns out he's a real POS too in his personal life.
I've never even heard of that person. Is he a YouTuber that I shouldn't watch?
He's a YouTuber that you should make fun of on a stream. Like it's great EFAP content.
If only I did that still these days. You know what? I tend to let those people burn themselves out, and I just walk right past them.
EFAP
he got invited
is
to the
freaking lame.
He got invited to the set. I think EFAP content is generally pretty lame when you're like live streaming other,
yeah.
If it's a super cringe YouTuber, yeah. If it's just somebody who's like in your competition to you in some other thing of business,
I could tell that
lame.
guy to his face, I didn't get invited to the set, but I was still there because when they were filming the Hall of Justice, I was there. I got pictures of all the Metropolis shit because they filmed it in Cincinnati. So, Hey, homeboy, I was there too. And this movie has got to be good on its own merit. See, folks, we'll always be honest with you. The WWE could fly me to Las Vegas, put me in the front row, give me a free title belt, a program, a chair, and Triple H could fucking shake my hand. And if the WrestleMania sucked, I'd be the first person to tell you that it was a shit show. Yep. But I had a great time because they were nice to me. But I can't trust these people because, like, you talk about toxic positivity, toxic excitement. People are so, and I ironically say this, but like hype. Like, fuck your hype. If you're excited for something organically, enjoy it. Don't let anybody take that away from you. But if all you are is excited for hype and not the quality of the product, you're the problem with entertainment, with toys, with games, because you're mindless. You don't buy anything you don't pay attention to anything. You just, I gotta have it. The hype is real. The hype is hot. I gotta show it on social. No, you don't.
The one that drives me nuts right now is we eating good.
I hate that shit.
I'm so over it. I keep saying no cap in my tweets the last 2 days. Just because
I don't even know what that means.
It just means not. It's like not gonna lie is what it means.
Oh,
but
I don't understand how that translates.
I don't either. But
am I retarded?
I was putting it in there, waiting for somebody to call me on it and go like, "Why are you saying this?"
I don't
like,
understand.
how old are you, Beavis? That's what I was waiting for. It's like,
suddenly I feel like I'm 15 years older. The fact that I don't understand it, it's like, what is?
Bro, I had a 12-year-old explain to me what skibbity means, and I didn't care.
I still don't know what that means, and I feel like I'm better off for it.
There is a toy of Skibbity Toilet out there.
I saw it at Ross.
Oh no, there's a giant one.
Really?
It's at GameStop. It just came out. It's probably about, I'd say, 14 to 16 inches tall, and it's got a plunger, and that head pops out. Like, somebody thought that was a worthwhile endeavor.
What?
So.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Oh
yeah,
my
exactly.
God. That hurts. That really hurts my brain. As far as this trailer, like, the trailer looked fine to me. I'm still looking forward to the movie. Look, this is a bad freeze frame. I didn't notice this frame until somebody literally paused it on the frame and posted it. So I was like, okay, so it was that kind of inconsequential. This is something you can fix in post very easily.
Well, it's also you're putting the camera in the guy's face, so that's going to happen. You're going to get the the kind of like wall-eyed effect.
Yeah.
It's not really that big a deal. The flying looked cool. Like, I liked him. Like,
I liked the shot itself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the other thing to notice is that they actually covered up his face with a still of his face, because it doesn't move and the light doesn't change in the entirety of that shot. It's completely motionless, which means that whatever's going on in his face in that actual shot, it's going to be different in the movie, because that is a cover-up part, and I recognize that. Some people thought it was a deep fake. It's not. They just grabbed a still from it, and then they just rotoscoped it to his face, and then they put it into the shot, because people want to see, well, what does David Cornsweet look like when he's flying? This shot could be a number of things. He could actually have like a bloody face in there. It could be the shot right before he lands and hits the snowbank that he creates in the first teaser trailer that happened. Or it could be him smiling, or it could be him doing something else. But they're not going to spoil it for you, because James Gunn has this strict rule, which is he tries his best to make sure he doesn't include any shots in the trailer that are in the second or third act of his films.
That's smart.
Now, Aaron, I know you got to go. Is there anything you'd like to say to the audience before we head out?
Dane, thanks guys for joining us. Thanks for for all your comments and everything. And if you guys have not already, I'm going to do a little bit of shilling here. Go check out Kneel Before Doomface on Kickstarter right now. If you guys like parodies, like I believe Jeff put out a parody, a little thing called Woke Busters, little stealing solo action.
Yeah, Woke Busters is on its way.
Mm-hmm. If you guys enjoy that kind of content, if you want to read a superhero story that is making fun of kind of all of the things that are going on in comics today, but still has some serious stakes and some fun stuff going on, go check out Kneel Before Doomface.
And get the Kenneth Rocafort cover.
Yes, get the Kenneth Rocafort cover, which is the image that is behind it.
And we've joked in the past that Kneel Before Doomface and Woke Busters could exist in the same universe, so you never know, folks.
You never know. We got to talk about that crossover.
The Woke Busters are alive, so yeah, they can show up anywhere you want them to. I kill off other characters, but not them.
Awesome. All right, guys, thanks for having me on. I'll see you later.
See you, Aaron. Take it easy, man.
Don't go anywhere, though. We have more show right now. So let's get back to the audience, and then we're going to have one more topic tonight. By the way, folks, I do have these beautiful proofs of Woke Busters in hand. So
ooh,
them physical print proofs.
Yep, nothing but the best, Clark. It was really nice to get these in the mail to see just how everything turned out, because this was a gamble. I wanted to cartoonify it to reflect the cartoon parody of society we live in, and the colors look great on the paper. Everything pops. I'm excited to ship it out and have it available to everybody very, very soon, like in a few weeks. So, but once you read your copy of Woke Busters, you're not going to have to wait very long for Stealing Solo. So don't worry, folks. That book is in production as we speak. So let's check in with the audience. Where were we? All right. Our friend Verbal Soul says, the sequel should have followed Knights of the Old Republic, with Traya being the baddie and hints of the Jedi Knight Academy.
I mean, at that point, it wouldn't be sequels. It'd be like thousands of years in the past prequels.
Mm-hmm.
And to be honest, I don't want Disney to touch anything in the Old Republic.
I don't want Disney to touch anything, even themselves. Just stay.
I mean, they can touch themselves if they want, but like do it away from everyone and everything, please.
I am over them and their sass. But look, Verbal Souls, anything that isn't Rey, Finn, Poe, and all those characters, sign me up. But it is what it is. But thank you. Aurora Uplink says, I would love a Skeletor comedy show that's just him being a dick to people and ruling his own corner of Eternia, maybe even going to Earth for fun. Absolutely.
That's kind of funny.
I would watch that in a heartbeat. Also, Jared Leto as Skeletor. I think Robert Englund as Skeletor would be great if he was given all the scenery to chew and great dialogue to work with. What do you guys think about that? Freddy Krueger as Skeletor.
Well, he's like 80 years old, so
He probably kind of looks like Skeletor though. At this point.
I mean, the thing is that how are you going to do the performance? It's probably going to be a performance capture, which means it'd be a stunt guy on set and then a Robert Englund just doing voiceover. Because again, it's makeup, and you don't really need an actor there for it. I mean, it's all stunt performers at this point because Skeletor is a yellow floating head over a buff blue body. You don't need an actor on set to do that because it is a voice role. Remember, it's not like Frank Langella, who actually got into makeup and went on set in the 80s to play Skeletor.
Right.
It's like, we have the technology now. We are going to use it.
We have the technology.
So really all you need is just a voice, and the fact that they're hired Jared Leto shows how out of touch they are because there is a Skeletor voice. The actor who played him is still alive and well, and he can still do it greatly. And it's a stunt performer. You just need a guy to stand in there, hit his mark, and he can say lines if he wants to. If they end up doing, like, say, a practical skull on a green undermask, because again, the brilliance of Skeletor is that his jawbone is the only thing that moves. You don't have to worry about syncing to lips or anything like that. You just have to have that flap go up and down, and you're good.
Yep. Now, this is my ignorance speaking. I don't know. Well, for one, I'm not a gigantic He-Man, Masters of the Universe fan myself, but also I don't know much about this production beyond the fact that I know that Jared Leto was cast in it as Skeletor. Is this supposed to be leaning into kind of the campiness of the original cartoon, or is it more like the reboot cartoon that they did that was like kind of more serious, or are they trying to like go, we're gonna make this like super serious?
They're essentially remaking the Dolph Lundgren movie, except Adam is the guy that's on Earth and finds out that he is He-Man.
Okay.
That is the current rumor right now. So it's basically repeating all the mistakes that Canon, Golan, and Globus did 30 years ago, and not committing to the idea of like, hey, it's a mix of sci-fi fantasy with a moral undertone to it that appeals to kids, and you can find a nice little balance between the Lou Schreimer stuff and the stuff that was done in 2002, and make it a very fun family action adventure film. But no, they're not going to do that. They're gonna cut every corner they can. They're going to set it on Earth in current day. And then you're going to have your set piece at the end. That's probably going to be a lot like that Wonder Woman action set piece from the first film, where Adam gets his sword, transforms into He-Man, and then wards off Skeletor before returning to Eternia for a sequel that will never happen because nobody will watch this or like it.
Well, this is I don't see this as a property that you're not going to get enough of a general audience buy-in. And let's be honest here, when we're talking large budget Hollywood productions, movies are a normie audience thing. So you got to get that. If you're spending that kind of money, you need to get a large audience buy-in.
They're not spending much on this.
No, they're not?
No.
Okay, well, at least there's that and working either for or against them, I guess.
Yeah. Well, they do have Alison Brie as Evelyn, which I don't think is a bad casting choice.
I like Alison Brie, so.
Yeah. I mean, her body is a little less feminine because she worked out a lot for the Glow series, and she's kind of kept the muscular frame, even though it's not a masculine muscular frame. It's just like defined shoulders and biceps, but it's not like Vasquez impressive. It's just, Alison Brie impressive, if you want to call it that. But I think that's a decent choice. And she also has enough acting chops where if they do decide to go a little bit like a balance between the traditional cartoon and current day, she can play the tone of that pretty well. Like she can do comedy, she can do cheesy, she can make cringe lines sound not cringe, which is actually a very useful skill for an actor to have. But it's I don't know. This has been in development hell for decades, and I don't see the choices that they're making right now to be any use for the franchise that they're hoping to kick off with this.
Right. I just don't see it as an IP that you're going to get much audience buy-in on to justify trying to turn it into a franchise.
Well, domestically in the States, not so much, but in Europe, it's huge.
Okay.
And I mean, it's basically like they're betting on a worldwide box office. So like Europe and China and Russia and parts of the, the civilized areas. Of
Would China care? Is that something that China would care about?
China likes beautiful white people. So if they keep casting beautiful white people in this movie, they're going to go in droves to see it, especially because it translates easily as it's primarily it's supposed to be an action film, but set in current day America. So
that's
it's just
what we all want. Hey, real quick, speaking of an action movie set in current day of America, I saw Flight Risk the other day, the new Mel Gibson movie. Solid. We're going to review it on Thursday night.
I saw the assembly cut last year around this time. Of course, the cut I saw was like 82 minutes, and I think the movie's a lot longer than that now.
No, it's not a lot longer.
It's not a lot longer? Okay.
Because I went into a 7 o'clock showing, previews played, and I got out before 9 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so they probably kept it pretty close. Because I've been hearing I haven't had a chance to see the final cut yet, but I'm hearing some mixed reviews where like it's a good bad movie or a solid okay movie, but there's some points where it gets a little cheesy with Mark Wahlberg's repetitions.
But there's a big payoff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I enjoyed it. I did get annoyed by his character, but there's a big payoff, and it was such a cathartic moment. I was like, yes! I won't spoil it for everybody because the movie just came out 3 days ago. But no, it was just a very cathartic moment, and there were a couple twists. Like if you see the TV commercial, you may not know any twist. If you've seen the trailer, you'll know a twist. But overall, you don't really know the full movie, and it's an hour and 31 minutes long, so it's a 91-minute movie. It's action packed. It's the kind of movie you want to watch. Like, you know how Taken was big, or Nobody, or those early year dad rock action movies where you get like a middle-aged guy to be an action star. It kind of falls into that category. I will watch this movie again, and Dion and I will talk about it for you guys on Thursday night. There's a plug for the show. Aurora Uplinks, thank you again. Johnny Depp is another person who could play Skeletor if Skeletor was playing it up between attractive and powerful origins and the humorous version that he became. Yeah, wasn't he handsome in the cartoon, like the 2002 cartoon?
Caldor was a good-looking guy. Yeah, I mean he's not a human species. I think he's like a half-breed species, but yeah, he's a good-looking guy. Supposedly, he's the half-brother to King Randor, who is He-Man's father. So, Skeletor supposedly is his uncle.
I just love them. Remember! And then he just says something shitty. I'm going to start doing those for fun. Thank you, Ruplix, again. Oh, man, Dave Chappelle or Eddie Murphy. Oh, my God. Oh, both would make amazing Skeletors. And I think if Chappelle was writing either way, the film would be amazing. If you did, like, Dave Chappelle He-Man in, like, 2004, that would be... Because you'd probably get a Charlie Murphy cameo as Man-at-Arms. I mean, the movie just writes itself. Like, you get Donnell Rawlings in there. You get anybody. Bill Burr would be in the He-Man movie because Bill Burr would show up on Chappelle's show. Hell, even get Wayne Brady. But Aurora Uplinks, I thought you were asking me to pick between Dave Chappelle or Eddie Murphy, and I was going, oh God, that's really hard because they're both funny dudes for different reasons. But I would go Eddie Murphy because he's made great movies. Dave Chappelle, Half Baked is great. Okay, it's good. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, though, Aurora. Now I'm thinking about all this stuff. Aurora also says, watch Scream 1 through 3, then watch Scary Movie 1 through 3. I I've never seen Scary Movie 2. I've seen one, like, literally dozens of times. I used to have it on DVD. And then I saw 3 once, and that was it. I don't know how the franchise panned out. I know it's crap, but
4 got a little bit better because one of the Zucker brothers was involved with it from Airplane and them.
oh, okay.
2 repeats a lot of the same jokes from the first one.
I do like the NBA. Like, I've seen this clip where they do the Nike commercial, and they
Yeah.
got the guy in the wheelchair spinner. Like, that shit was funny to
David
me.
Cross.
Yeah. I used to like him. He's just not in anything I watch anymore. It's not like he pissed me off. He's not Patton Oswalt, who is kind of annoying. And not the voice of Ghostbusters. Aurora
No.
Uplinks, thank you very much. TV shows where everyone is horse people, but otherwise it's just normal script for some comedy drama show, maybe set in some nightmare sci-fi story. So not BoJack Horseman? You guys ever watch that show?
I know
I
of
tried
it. I've
watching
never
it.
watched it,
Yeah.
but I know of it.
I'm glad you said you tried to watch it. I before I lived out in California, I thought it was the worst show ever. And then people out there would try to explain to me that's what it's like to be out there, and it's still one of the worst shows I've ever seen. I hate BoJack Horseman. Like, the theme song's great, the back in the 90s part, but I don't know, man. Now, Aurora, I would hate to draw that comic book because I don't really draw a lot of horses and animals, so it'd be a ton of reference and it would take a ton of time just to, and like, trying to do the emotions.
I know there's a lot
yeah.
of artists that think horses are very hard to do because they don't have the most expressive of faces.
Yeah.
Did you know that in I think it was maybe the 40s, there was an era of time where you couldn't get a comic job unless you could draw horses, women, and something else. Like, you had to hit those 3 metrics because you had to do Western stories on the fly. So you got a lot of these guys that really studied horses, or if you were smart, you just found good pictures of horses and you traced them, but it didn't really matter. Aurora Uplinks, again, thank you very much. There's an awful toy I suggest Disney make. Please buy it if they produce it. It involves Lando Calrissian, a building, and I cannot say more. You mean Cloud City? I'll buy a Cloud City action figure playset. Maybe it's a Colt 45 distillery? I would ironically buy that. I just want, for those that are collectors, tell me what you want most made. I want Axel Foley and Wayne and Garth from Wayne's World. Those are my 3 figures, like, right now that I would love.
Those are pretty good.
They'd be so cool. They can literally just be those little even though I hate Super 7, they could just be little barely articulated guys if they just stood there. That's enough for me. I'm not going to go take my Axel Foley to the swimming pool and go on a deep sea diving adventure for Inspector Todd's remains or something like that.
I don't even want it as an articulated figure. I want a, let's say, at smallest, 1/6 scale figure statue of this Mike Wieringo, Wally West Flash. And I want it to have a metallic sheen to the suit because that's what that suit was designed to have. That would make me happy.
I think I might want an Inspector Clouseau action figure. Or Columbo. Actually, both. I want Inspector Clouseau and Columbo.
I'd buy both of those just to have them.
Yep.
Now, Andrew, I'm going to need your help on this next subject because, folks, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk about this one, and then we're going to close out the show. We're trying to keep these things around 2-ish hours and change because it gets late and people have to get up for work in the morning. And it also makes it easier to watch in the replay because it's not, 5 hours long. But I'm going to experiment with a long stream, and I promised you guys there'll be that 200K stream where I'll just get on here and I'll invite people on. So that's still happening. I've just been, burning the candle at both ends to take care of business. But no complaints because I'm lucky. So what is the story with Anthony Mackie today in the press talking about Captain America, not for America? Like, I missed the whole thing, so I don't want to try to paraphrase or give wrong information.
Right. So Anthony Mackie was and script, if you're familiar with, you can chime in as well.
Sure.
But Anthony Mackie was doing an interview and he was talking about, I forget if he brought it up or if he was asked kind of like what the character of Captain America means to him, what this movie means to him, things like that. Fairly standard interview questions, right? When you're playing a character that's attached to an IP. Fair enough. But his response was that he tries to like very quickly break down what he thinks being Captain America, or what Captain America means, what he stands for, things like that, what that means to him. And the first few things he says are like, okay, yeah, all right, that's fine. Like talking about honesty, talking about dignity, talking about things like that. Okay, yeah, I'm on board. And then he says he doesn't think of America or being American as like part of that. I'm sorry, bro. It's in the name. I don't know what to tell you. Like, this is arguably more important to the character's identity than the whole truth, justice, and American way thing is to Superman, right? Because Superman,
right too.
Yeah. So like, he's Captain America. Just as I wouldn't expect Captain Britain to give much of a piss about Americans, at least into the same degree, or for him to care about, I don't know, people in Czechoslovakia or Kenya or Taiwan, whatever. If you name a character like if part of their title has to do with their country of origin or the country they operate in and out of, I would expect that to be a part of their character and a very defining part of their character. It should be. Otherwise, why the hell did you name them that?
Well, I mean, patriotic stuff. One of the things that, so Anthony Mackie, because I have a little, got a little text message from a buddy of mine. He says Anthony Mackie forgot a word because he's supposed to say something along the lines of, those values that he appreciates is not exclusive to America, because they're not. But he ended up saying it's not America. And then he went on to go talk about how when you're a kid and you're playing and you're getting to that moment of fantasy, you are fully committed to it, and there's a lot of joy to that until someone, as you get older, tells you no. And he said that him being able to be an actor, and then play these roles and play these characters was the first time someone couldn't tell him no, couldn't take that magic away from him, because that's what he was talking about for the majority of that segment. Now, a fun fact is that he also he was in a foreign country, so he's trying to make sure that he's able to sell this movie internationally. So one thing,
and that's fair context, right?
Yeah, and one thing you don't want to do is just say, I mean, do the arrogant thing that occurred in the late 80s and early 90s, where like America was like the best thing in the world, and then you're like, well, wait a minute, why are you sending Scud missiles over to Iran, for no reason, or at least on the surface of that. We'll get into the politics of it, but he didn't want to come across as it being an arrogance of it.
Sure.
However, after
his delivery was less than optimal.
Oh God, I think he was, like my friends are wondering if he was drunk or stoned at that, because he was not as articulate as he's been in all the other press junkets thus far. So shortly after that video has spread, because I think it was within 2 hours after he'd finished the that press junket, he goes on to the socials and apologizes, says he doesn't want him. He's still proud to be an American, and what he said may have been unclear, so he decided to clarify that. And I'm just thinking, well, I think the drugs probably wore off at that point. And he listened to it, he's like, oh crap, what did I do?
And that's all important context, right?
Yeah. Look, if this guy was
that's
unfortunate, made a mistake, I think it's funny, actually.
Yeah. And that's, well, look, here, I don't think any of us here were ever excited for this film to begin with, and so none of us could claim, oh, well, now I'm not going to see the film, or at least not be excited for the film, blah, 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 because I wasn't going to see the film. I have zero interest in this film.
I'm going to review it for the channel because the audience watches our movie reviews, and
that's fine, because they rely on you and expect you to give them an honest critique of the movies that you go see, and that's perfectly understandable. I, however, am not a YouTuber, and so I don't have that responsibility. So I get to say, nope, I'm going to save that $20 and I'm going to spend it elsewhere.
Do you want me to text you after the movie, or maybe even during the movie?
Sure, why not? Just let me know. Is it really that bad?
Are you going to be surprised if I text you and be like, "This is a good movie"?
No, well, okay. I would be surprised. I would be surprised, but if it actually came from you, I would take it seriously. I wouldn't still go and see it, but I would at least take you at your word.
It would be very difficult because the audience is so checked out on Marvel and these things. It's really more of a watch it to talk about the movie. Yeah. I don't think I would ever try to champion a Disney product and tell people to go out and watch it or buy it or whatever. It's not really a thing we would do. But I'll say, hey, Thank you, Fox Hills. Yes, I'll buy a Rock action figure with that 20.
I have a Rock.
If I didn't have a Regal pass, I wouldn't go see these movies. But it's a business
Might
expense.
as well. One thing we should probably take into consideration, which is a big part of the character, is that Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, they kind of made him 3 weeks after the attack on Pearl Harbor.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not
It
mistaken,
was around the same time. I don't know exactly the dates, but
I know it was December of 41. And the reason I know that is because back in the day when I was doing this project with researching to Superman, it was in early 1942 that they changed his slogan from his fights a never-ending battle for truth and justice to fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, the American way. And that suggestion came by way of the United States War Department, because for those people who may not have been alive during the 30s and 40s, as the war in Europe started to expand, there was a large majority of Americans that did not want to be involved in that war.
Mm-hmm.
And when Pearl Harbor was attacked, those Americans still did not want to be involved in that war. And so in order to do that, the War Department and parts of the government, other areas of the government, did reach out to the entertainment industry of radio, because there wasn't really much television at all. But I think it just premiered at the World's Fair. But radio serials and stuff, and said, hey, we need to rally people to get actually behind this, because we're going to war because we've been attacked by Japan. And Japan is a tight ally with Germany at this moment. And it's going to happen come hell or high water, and we better get the people on our side. And you got to do everything you can. And that's how that all evolved. And it was kind of remarkable. Because it was literally like pro-war propaganda, but for the a little bit of retaliation for the Japanese, but also for the future of the planet because of what was happening in Europe and how Germany was expanding its territory and eradicating people that were not fitting the mold of the Aryan race. So you got to remember, it wasn't a hero story told for the virtues of being pro-American for the sake of being pro-American. It was like we can kill a number of birds with one stone here. We can be pro-American. We can be pro that, defending our brothers and sisters and relatives that are overseas, because America and most North America are majority immigrants population, so they do have ties back to Europe and did at that point, because it was only 150 years removed. Really. And that's what it was. But the thing is, these guys, when they kept writing the character, they managed to take him beyond just being a war propaganda piece and actually developed him into a human character that exemplifies the values of what America stands for, the values of what everybody who came over to North America, even from the people that were in Spain that colonized Mexico and California before the United States got it. The people that did, even the French that colonized parts of North America too, they all wanted that better life, that freedom from the old way and a way to forge their new path. And that's a very American value. And what does Captain America stand for? He stands for that, the individual, the forging of new and that, the fighting of pure perseverance. The fact that they are American doesn't exclude them from saying that the values that they have stem from the very origins of where everybody came to come to this country. So it's a very American thing, but it has a root internationally, because America would not exist without the people that left Europe to come here. So it's a cyclical thing. The fact of the matter is that Anthony Mackie, whether he was on drugs or whether he was just having a bad day, was not able to actually think abstractly about that character, even though he's gone back maybe 2 or 3 times to reshoot this thing. So you'd think he'd be in the headspace for it, unless they drastically changed him 2 or 3 times, where he doesn't even know what the heck he's playing anymore.
I mean, there is a wrestler, Seth Rollins, and he was cast in that movie, but because of the reshoots, he's been written out of the movie. So I'd love to know what all the alternate versions of Captain America: Brave New World are, because Marvel's got so much writing on this.
I wonder what the New World Order version was. Back when it was called that.
The question I'm curious about is, was Rollins in there just the way? Who was the wrestler that played the Leaper in Winter Soldier? Because he was only in there for that brief bit, right? So
that was George St. Pierre, the UFC fighter.
Right.
Fighter,
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I think Seth Rollins was playing a named character from the Serpent Society. I don't really know. I'm not a big Seth Rollins fan, so I don't follow his career. But am very curious about how this movie will perform. It comes out on a holiday like Valentine's Day, where I don't think a lot of people are like, oh, it's romantic to go see Captain America fight Harrison Ford, CGI stunt double. No, it's kind of like, it's a weird time to put this movie out, but they got to have something out so the Fantastic Four can, oh wait, what's going to do worse, this or the Thunderbolts?
Well, there's the rumor that the Thunderbolts is not going to be the official name of the movie once it hits theaters, because that's why they have the asterisk there.
Oh, I thought it was just a way for like licensing to be like, oh, regular Thunderbolts and Thunderbolts asterisk. That's the Marvel movie.
Maybe, I don't know. Like that's some of the rumor I've been hearing from some of my friends out in LA who are like saying, yeah, they've been hearing stories that the reason there's the asterisk there is that Thunderbolts is like a placeholder title, and then once you buy your ticket that says Thunderbolts onto it, but by the time the movie ends, the title comes up and it's not Thunderbolts anymore, it's something else, which I'm like, that sounds stupid, and I feel like you're trolling me, but if that's the case, that's crazy.
That's a choice.
I don't know. Thunderbolts is a big swing because it doesn't have aside from David Harbour, there's not really much of anybody in that movie I would want to see. And
Florence Pugh?
Florence Pugh.
I know you were so disappointed in Oppenheimer.
I mean, I like the movie. I just didn't want to see her naked because she has a torso of a very young child, and I'm not a pervert.
The torso, okay.
Like, listen, my girlfriend and her friends, they had a lot of sad breast jokes that just made me howl.
Well, I guess she's not the most memorable part of that movie. Maybe for all the wrong reasons. For all the hype and hubbub, I have not watched that movie a second time, and I don't think I will. I enjoyed it. I gave it high marks, but usually historical stories, once I learn a little more context about something I'm already aware of because of, school, I go, oh, okay, the story's kind of filled in for me. I'm done. But I hope Nolan can knock it out of the park with his, Odyssey or is it Iliad?
He's doing the Odyssey, which I'm worried about because one thing I've learned about Nolan is he's not big on research. So, and then the other part too, his Oppenheimer is based. Well, his Oppenheimer movie is based off of one singular book, and it doesn't even get that 100% correct. So, I think he can make it visually beautiful as an epic. I think he won't really nail the what the Odyssey is, and if he does follow it up with the Iliad, and then there's another book which is escaping me at the moment that's part of it, then they'll be visually stunning epics, but I don't think they'll resonate because I still don't know many people that watch Interstellar or what's the other one, Inception.
Yeah, it's true.
The Prestige.
Saw it when it first came out.
I liked The Prestige.
I mean, I like The Prestige too, but when you take a look at his filmography, I don't hear a lot of people talking about it the way when I was entering film school or when I was entering in Hollywood, where people were still talking 30 years later about 2001 or Doctor Strangelove or Eyes Wide Shut or Full Metal Jacket or anything Kubrick was doing or anything. Like, heck, even with Hitchcock and Cecil B. DeMille, you're still getting people talking about that. And I'm still, every once in a while, I'll get an email or a text, be like, man, I went and rewatched this. I went rewatched The Man Who Knew Too Much. And Orson Welles film, and you're like, yeah, that's fantastic, and you never hear anyone talk about Christopher Nolan's stuff after it leaves theaters, and I'm thinking that's probably telling, not just with regards to the fact that our current generation is not as into movies as they used to be, but to the fact that I think, he's more like, one and done, unless you're this very crazy type of cinephile that just has to go all in on every movie, every director, and sap up the Oscars and stuff all the time. Which I wish I had that passion for. I just don't. I'd rather just have a really great story that makes me ponder and makes me want to up my game than just liking it for the sake that it's got that guy's name on it or that girl's name in it.
It makes me dislike the actual thing. Like, I like Christopher Nolan movies overall, but when I hear that level of like gushing and just like nonstop verbal filleting, I go, okay, like, you're making me dislike the thing I like now, because it's like we can't move past how great you think it is. It's like, just let people consume it in their own way. And for me, the only Nolan movie I go back to rewatch, well, I want to say Memento, but I haven't watched that movie in a long time. Is Batman Begins. Not even The Dark Knight. It's a fine movie. I like it. I never find any rewatchability in it like I do the first one, because the first one's a little more exciting to me.
Well, I can put it to you this way. So Christopher Nolan will never have a movie that could be thought of and analyzed to the point where you realize the entire events of that movie are because a general bricked into the mouth of a prostitute. And that's Dr. Strangelove. Because he is obsessed about his bodily fluids. And he talks about how he's with this woman. And then what he normally does was not done that night. And that blew his mind to the point where he decided to launch an attack against Russia.
All right.
All because he finished somewhere else.
I mean, it could throw you for a loop. We've all been there.
But I mean, that's one of the inciting incidents of a movie, and you're like, that is a great satirical film. That an uptight conservative, square conservative type general spends one night with a woman who happens to be Russian, and is like, these commies tried to manipulate me. They're trying to steal my bodily fluids. We have to destroy them. Find me a Christopher Nolan movie that's that brilliant, and I will be happy to say salute it and go, yes sir, that's a good one.
I don't think I can do that.
I don't think he can do that.
I want to watch movies that I'd like to watch movies that he likes with him, because I know he has his pretentious picks, but I read a list where he has basic stuff on there too. Mm-hmm. I want to see that dude attempt to make something that's out of his wheelhouse in terms of his brand.
I'd like to see him do a comedy.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. But don't get the regular actors he normally works with, because I don't find those people funny at all. DiCaprio. I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio's funny. What was that movie they did, Up in the Sky?
Oh, he did Catch Me If You Can, and another one that was kind of a comedy. See, Michael Caine can do comedy.
He's great.
Well, that's because he's just an incredible actor.
Exactly, yeah.
He's the next level actor.
Yeah, he's an actor's actor, if you will.
So can Gary Oldman can do comedy too. So there's two right there that are Nolan's favorites that you could do.
Yeah, didn't was it Rosencrantz and Guildenstern? Isn't Gary Oldman in that movie?
I think so. Funny. Yeah.
Don't Look Up. Okay, that's the movie. Thank you.
Don't Look Up.
Up in the Sky. I guess I'm thinking of It's a Bird, It's a Plane. It's Falcon portraying Captain America. So, is there anything else you guys want to say before we put this baby to bed? We've had a great show, and the turnout keeps coming in.
Cool.
Normally I'm we're going to close it out, but people just keep rolling in. Folks, thank you for joining us. Check out all the videos that have dropped this week. We've had, since Saturday, we've had the My Life in Toys, we had the $60 Spider-Man, we had the Hasbro No More Toys video drop every day since Saturday. So I'm going to get back to working on new videos for you guys, and another show on Thursday night. But in my neck of the woods, I'm getting ready for this con. I'm getting ready for the next book. I'm getting ready to take care of Wokebusters for everybody. So I'm a very busy man, but I'm world class first, so I'll always be here for you guys. Is there anything else you guys want to say before we go?
Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Let us know if you saw Captain America.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody who has supported the pre-order collection for Yaira 2 over at the Rippaverse, and who is excited for Great War of Separation, written by Chuck Dixon and illustrated by Jack Herbert, which launches tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Central. Looking forward to seeing big things come from that, because it's a wonderful book, wonderful story. It's Chuck Dixon.
I thought you were about to say Jack Kirby. I was like, wait, you guys got Jack Kirby? No,
Jack Herbert. But otherwise, guys, thank you so much for hanging out with us for a couple hours. We appreciate you every single week hanging out, butts in the seats, interacting with us, helping this be an even better time than it would have been otherwise.
So, folks, thank you for watching. I'll be back next time with more. But in the meantime, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other.
Did you see that guy accidentally hit that moose with his car?
No.
Holy shit, Jamie, pull that video up.
Oh my god, oh my god.